Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. As always, it's Brian Driscoll, it's Trevor Trowbridge. It is Wednesday. Now, typically during game weeks when we rolled out our new content plan, normally during game weeks, we're not going to do buy-sell holds. But since Notre Dame has an early bye, we have a buy-sell hold today. It is Wednesday. We have buy-sell hold. The thread's been up on the board for a couple days. We have a lot of good submissions in there. Now, look, if this does happen to be your first one, friendly reminder, this is something for premium message board subscribers at boards@irishbreakdown.com. Salty Virginia Peanuts, we'll get a thread going on the board. And basically what we have going on is, we have our premium message board subscribers submit either a question or a scenario. And then after much thought and discussion, Brian and I will talk whether we buy it, we sell it, or we hold it. We just don't have enough answers. Now, ideally, we're not holding, but some of them we just kind of have to wait to see how some things play out. This isn't like a mailbag. So if you just submit it in the live chat, we're not going to have time to get to it. But if you are a message board subscriber and you weren't able to get your post in on time, you can always throw in a super chat. But Brian, I know we talked about only doing this during bye weeks, and we did one of these 2 weeks ago. But another one of the benefits of Notre Dame having an early bye week is we get to do a buy-sell hold. We don't have to wait that much longer to do it.
Yeah, this is going to be, there's obviously a lot of things in the buy-sell hold this week that are of critical nature or concerning nature, but it was surprisingly, I was expecting a lot of doom and gloom, and actually got good football, like really good football submissions this week. So there's a lot of frustratingly negative angles on a lot of things on the board, and I get it after a loss, but I was very happy and thankful for the buy-sell hold people that they submitted good submissions. And again, doesn't mean we need to be positive and, hey, let's put a good spin on this one. But it's like, let's be rationally negative or rationally critical and talk ball. And I thought that's one of the things I really loved about today's submissions is we're going to get a chance to actually talk ball and not have any overreactions about buy-sell hold. You're going to fire so-and-so in week 2. None of that stuff. Really good stuff, and I'm looking forward to that for this week.
Well, that's music to my ears, Brian. I've had enough doom and gloom over the last couple of days, so I'm ready to rock and roll, man. And as always, I know our guy Salty gets us started since he's the one that puts up the chat. So buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's passing strategy is unfocused. Too many wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs are targeted, preventing the establishment of productive rhythms with one or fewer receivers.
I'm gonna sell that. I don't think that too many guys being targeted is a problem. I do believe that there should be a focus on getting certain guys established early in the game. I do think there's merit to that. I think obviously they were looking to get Jordan Faison going early in the game. They were looking to get Malachi Fields going early in the game, which is why they threw him the screen ball. Obviously, I think Salty's a little salty about Jaden Greathouse not being targeted more. I would actually agree with that, although in this particular game, it's more understandable because they just weren't going to throw in the middle of the field. That's going to have to change. You're going to have to do things to make sure that certain players are part of the game plan. But I don't think that one or a few receivers is really the way to go, because otherwise, one of the complaints that I used to have, for example, about the offense for a long time in Notre Dame was, you'd play all this 12 personnel, and then the number 2 receivers like never a threat in the pass game. So basically what you're telling the other team, like, listen, you don't have to worry about the offensive lineman, you don't have to worry about the quarterback, and you don't have to worry about the second tight end in the pass game. So you really only got to cover 4 guys. I don't think that makes for an effective offense. There's a difference between, hey, we got to make sure we get Malachi Fields and Jay Greathouse going early in the game, or we got to make sure we get Jeremiah Love going early in the game, and saying we're not going to get any carries for Jadarian Price or Aeneas Williams or Nolan James or whatever. There's a difference in those two things. And that's something that I think obviously can be a mistake on either direction. But no, I want the ball spread around. There will be times in certain games against certain defenses where a certain player will be more of a focal point and should be based on what the other team is doing. But no, I don't agree with this overall as a strategy. I don't think that Salty is posting this thread if Jaden Greathouse is targeted, a few more times and caught a form of your balls with the same. Like if he was getting the touches that Jordan Faison was getting, I don't know that we'd have the same reaction to it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm selling this as well. I mean, end of the day, I know it's frustrating for for certain players, but when you look at what went down on Sunday, there was only one running back with targets in the pass game. It was Jeremiah Love. There's only one tight end with targets in the pass game, and that was Eli Raridan. And so, I'm a firm believer, and I've been very adamant about this since the postseason or the offseason. Brian has been too. That I think Notre Dame's offense this year is going to be a lot of distributed passes over the course of the season, and it won't just necessarily be one or two guys. But I do think that it is important to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. Jaden Greathouse, Malachi Fields are both of those. From B Jam and 41, Marcus Freeman needs to hire a better offensive line coach if Notre Dame is going to ever win it all.
I'll say this, B Jam, and I will buy that Notre Dame needs a better performance from its offensive line coach than what it's gotten so far. Whether that is someone new or Joe Rudolph just doing a better job, I don't get into the whole, because basically to hire somebody better, you got to fire somebody. And look, I've said this a million times. I don't advocate for guys to get fired. I advocate for guys to do a better job. I just feel that's a professional courtesy. I understand that not everybody feels that way. That's fine. But at the end of the day, what I can say for certain is the job needs to be better. The job that's being done needs to be better, significantly better. And if Joe Rudolph's not the guy to do that, then I understand Marcus Freeman's got some tough decisions to make. My hope is that Joe Rudolph is the guy that can fix it, because then that means it's going to get fixed right now, instead of having to go through a coaching change in the offseason. So I hope that Joe Rudolph figures it out and makes some adjustments, looks in the mirror, says, hey, I didn't do a good job of getting my guys prepared. I got to fix it, and then fix it. That's my hope. Will that happen? I don't know. But I'll just say that I buy the idea that Notre Dame has to get a better coaching job from its offensive line coach.
For those reasons, I'm going to hold this, because it is a possibility that person is in South Bend right now. We talk about players showing the ability to improve year over year, and I think that any member of the coaching staff also deserves those liberties. There was a lot of people that was questioning Al Washington going into last season, and he showed that he can turn things around and really coach up a unit that was decimated by injuries. Now it's put up or shut up time from the offensive line for Notre Dame. I think we can all agree on that. But I'm holding, because at the end of the day, ideally it's with the staff that they have right now. This staff is the same staff that took them to the national championship last year and did their due diligence to make Notre Dame who they were last year. And I'm hoping that the pieces come together this year. But at the same time, at the end of the day, football, sports like this, it's a business. And, Marcus Freeman's company, Pete Bravacqua's company is Notre Dame. And you have to make sure that you have players performing at the highest level, and you have to make sure that you have coaches performing at the highest level. I just hope, in the same light that Brian talked about, that everybody on board and, on the bus right now is who they need. And call it a little coach speak, but that's what I hope, because that's where I'm at. I really hope that everybody's in the right seat right now.
Because if not, the alternative, if that's not true, is this is just going to be another lost season, another missed opportunity. And I'd rather not have to go through that.
Agreed. Another one from B Jam and 41. You would rather have a bye week to work on the team's issues than play a cupcake team before A&M?
Based on the result of week one, I buy that. Yes. Like the way that Notre Dame played in week one, I absolutely buy that. If Notre Dame, let's say they went out and dominated Miami the way they should have, I'd say, hey, let's just keep playing. Let's just build on that. But the way that this game, the way that that things turned out and played out over this last week, yeah, I'm glad they have a bye, because it hopefully gives them a chance to do some soul searching. If they come out, but I'll say this, it also for us is going to tell us a lot. Because if they come out of the A&M game, or if they go into the A&M game and not a lot's changed, then we're going to know they didn't think they were the problem. A coach doesn't think he's the problem when something goes wrong and he doesn't do anything to fix it. He doesn't think he's the problem.
Buy, sell, hold. You still believe Notre Dame will win a title in the next 2 years. You said the next 3 years last season.
Yeah, I buy that. Look, guys, it was a bad game. And there are some certain red flags that obviously need to be addressed. But at the end of the day, I'm also not going to sit here and have this dramatic overreaction like everything is changed now. And all the things I believed about the program are gone because they went on the road and lost by 3 to a top 10 team. I don't think Miami's a top 10 team. I think they're more top 20. That's still not a terrible loss without any context. But I'm just not going to have this crazy overreaction that now all of a sudden they're not going to win a title. The talent is still the talent. It is. They've got to coach better and play better and make some adjustments, but I'm not going to sit here and have this crazy overreaction.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about yesterday. On FanDuel, Notre Dame still has the 7th best odds to win the national championship, and people are walking away from this loss, making it sound like Notre Dame just lost to Northern Illinois again. And that's just not the case. Look, at the end of the day, all hope is not lost, as upset and as depressed as some people are. And I understand, look, it is okay. It is absolutely okay to be upset. I still am. I think I get over it, and then I see a post on Twitter, or I see something on the boards, or I dive into the film and I start looking. Yeah, I still get frustrated at the loss, but not to the point where all hope is lost for the rest of this season and all the next.
And we should feel that way after a loss.
Yeah.
That's the standard at Notre Dame. But my whole beef is like with some of the reaction is like it's okay to say, hey, the offensive line did a poor job without turning it into something bigger. We're going to ignore the 16 games Emil Wagner played last year and just focus on this game. Like, let's talk about how bad it was in this game. And then we can, if we see it again next week, then we can say, okay, there's a pattern emerging. It's okay to point out that the O-line hasn't played well enough in recent games. It's okay to point out that, Chris Ash didn't do a good job. And it's okay to point out that if these things don't change, then the result will be that they won't win a title the next couple of years. That's fine. There's just too much kind of, jumping off of a cliff with some of the takes. And that's what can get a little bit frustrating. And then it forces me to kind of defend like, okay, this is a crazy thought. This is a crazy reaction, which now forces me to defend, Chris Ash or Joe Rudolph or Mike Denbrock or whoever in a way that I'd rather not based on this game. That's the thing is every loss turns into this giant big picture overreaction, just like the Northern Illinois game was last year, when in reality, it's be upset about the loss, focus on the moment, and then let's see how the response is. And then if we see patterns develop in a season, then we can say, hey, look, there's a problem here. If Notre Dame comes out and lays an egg against Texas A&M in a week and a half, then guess what? There's a much bigger problem here that we can address. If they come out and destroy Texas A&M, let's say they go out next week and they just beat Texas A&M by 30 points and just dominate, run for 250, hold them. Does that mean that, okay, they're back, they're going to dominate the next 10 games? Doesn't mean that either. It doesn't negate what happened in game one. It tells me that right now this is a team, we've seen two very different football teams. This is a great win. Let's talk about how great it was. Keep this going. But let's see if this is something where they just had a bad day and they bounce back the way that Ohio State did when they lost to Michigan last year. Had a terrible day. And then win their next 4 games, won a title. Or how Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech at home by 14 points at the beginning of the 2014 season. Looked terrible doing so. They didn't look like the national champions that day, but then they went out and rolled. The way that Alabama lost on the road by 12. Or no, actually, they lost, at home to Ole Miss in 2015 in a game when their defense gave up over 40 points. They went and won a title that year. That Saturday, they did not look like a championship football team. 2016, when Clemson won their first title in 40 years, and in November got beat at home by Pitt in a game they gave up over 40 points, they looked like crap that day. 17, Alabama losing by 12 points to Auburn in the end of the regular season. 12 points, a 4-loss Auburn team at the end of 17. They went on to win the national championship that year. Like, we could keep doing this. Did anyone I watched Georgia get their absolute butts kicked by Alabama, and then I watched them a month later beat Alabama by 15. This happens all the time. The one game should not be something that we turned it into this bigger thing. It's a problem. It's got to get fixed. But in certain things are patterns, and it's okay to focus on those. But now we're just throwing everything out. And that's a bit of my frustration. Instead of saying, hey, can we just stay right here? Because right here is a place that makes sense. Right here is a reaction that's healthy. We're talking about football. You're now going over here to bench this guy, bench that guy, fire this guy, fire that guy after a week. It's like people were like, Freeman's not the guy at Notre Dame after the Northern Illinois loss last year. Maybe he isn't, but we don't know that based on this game. Let's see how this team reacts. And that's how I feel about this team. Let's see how this team reacts. And if this team doesn't react well, then there's a much bigger problem that needs to be addressed, and we can deal with it at that time. But what's also true is if Notre Dame goes out there and annihilates Texas A&M in a week and a half, it doesn't negate all the things that popped up last week, because clearly that's still in you. The Northern Illinois game was still in that football team last year, but they made a choice. We're not going to do that again. They could have. They were still that same team. They just chose that we're not going to let this define us. We're going to do this. And that's what we have to find out, if this team is capable of that. That's the question. Is this team like last year, where they have the bad loss, they fix some things, and then they go out and play really good football? Or is this become a thing that continues? We're going to find out.
Another one from BJamin 41. There will be 6 different teams ranked number 1 this year before the playoffs. So far, there have been 2.
Oh, boy. 6 teams? I'm going to say it's 4 to 5. I'm 6. I'm like, boy, goodness. So who's number 1 right now? Ohio State, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're going to have to lose somewhat soon if that's going to happen. So, I mean, things didn't work out well for Notre Dame, but Ohio State, I did predict to win. I'm not shocked that they jumped up to number 1. They should have been number 1 to begin the season. Let's see what they do on September 27th at Washington.
Yeah.
If they don't lose that game, then there's no chance for a new number 1 until maybe 2 weeks later when they play at Illinois. If they lose that game, they don't play another game they might lose for 3 weeks. There's no way they're losing at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's terrible. November 1st against Penn State, and if they win that game, then their last 4 games are at Purdue, home against UCLA, home against Rutgers, at Michigan. So, I mean, it all depends on, does Ohio State lose anytime soon? The longer Ohio State goes without losing, the less chance there is that there's going to be a lot of teams that are ranked number 1.
Agreed.
So,
Bryce Young, Notre Dame will rush for over 200 yards against Texas A&M.
I'll buy that.
I'm going to hope by it.
I'm not even hope buying it. I'm buying it, because I just watched UTSA run all over A&M, and they didn't. There were things that they got to correct, but some of it was just they got kind of pushed around. And Notre Dame's issue against A&M was as much about, in run game wise, was as much about just usage as it was ineffectiveness. I mean, there were opportunities there. There were some decisions made by the quarterback where if he makes a better decision in the RPO game, the ball gets handed off, they get more yards. And Miami had a pretty good run defense last year. And I think their defensive line right now is a lot better than Texas A&M. So I'll buy that one. I'll tell you this, if they don't at least sniff 200 yards in the next game, then there's a major problem. A major problem. I'll say that. Because, look, A&M's going to be like, hey, look, UTSA ripped us up. We got to make some adjustments. We got to make some changes. They're not just going to sit back and be like, we're fine. But it shouldn't matter at the end of the day. You should be able to run on them. You almost ran for 100 yards last year, and you got everybody back. I mean, you almost ran for 200 yards on them last year. Excuse me. So, yeah.
from 412 Irish. Hearing that Rudolph has been demanding effort since the beginning of camp into Sunday night, is there any chance these kids have tuned him out? They just don't believe in him anymore. Or do they just not believe in him anymore?
I'm gonna sell this. I don't think they've tuned him out. Look, I don't. Getting your butt kicked is different than not playing hard. Emil Wagner getting dominated on that last sack wasn't about him not playing hard. It was about him completely abandoning any semblance of technique. That's different. That's a very different thing. And so I think there's a difference between poor play and a lack of effort. Notre Dame got out-punched. They got out-fought by Miami. It doesn't mean does not always mean that they played soft or terrible or didn't fight. It just means, like, if you go into a boxing match and two guys duke it out, one guy knocks the other guy out, did the guy that got knocked out, like, did he not try? Was he not battling? Or is he just that night he got whooped? Like, I don't think this is the case. Now, if we see this for a couple more games and they have no pride, they have no fight, does that mean Joe Rudolph is the problem? To a degree it is, but it also means that there's a lack of leadership, because, like, there were teams at Notre Dame in the past. This was never an offensive line issue because they had Harry Heastand. But there were Notre Dame teams in the past that I know for a fact, because I know some of the players on the team, that they pretty much got together and said, we don't care what coach does or says. We're going to be accountable to each other, and we're going to hold ourselves to a certain standard. And I remember talking to Alex Bars, I think it was on this show, might have been in a personal conversation, but talking about how, you went to work every day as an offensive lineman at Notre Dame. When I played with Quentin Nelson, it wasn't even really about Harry. I wasn't worried about Harry. Coach was going to coach, and he was going to be hard on me and demanding. I wanted that. You were more concerned about Q. You were more concerned about, if you didn't give effort, Quentin Nelson coming up to you and having a thing to say about your effort that day and how you're not living up to the standard that's been set for Notre Dame offensive linemen. That's leadership. Not like giving a speech in front of the team. That's a part of leadership. But true leadership is the one that demands excellence from your players every day. And the thing that Alex said in that conversation was, the reason it mattered and the reason it took is not because Quentin was bigger than anyone else, or he might beat you up, or because of any other reason other than that's what he did every day. And he's a star. He's an All-American. And if he's going to give that kind of effort every day, your butt better be giving me that same effort. And there was an accountability with each other that if I don't do my job, then I'm letting the guy down next to me. It doesn't matter what Coach Heastand says. Now, I would argue that Coach Heastand built a culture that led to that accountability, but it wasn't just in the offensive line. That's true leadership. And that's what we're going to find out if this football team has. And that can be done, Trevor, in spite of coaches. And during the Brian Kelly era, it was done in spite of coaches. But Harry Heastand never had to go up to Quentin Nelson, as far as I know, and say, hey, Quentin, listen, I need you to do this in practice. I need you to do that. That's just who Quentin Nelson was. The culture was there that Quentin felt he had the ability and authority to then go to a teammate who wasn't doing the work. But I also remember talking to a freshman offensive lineman and him telling me about how Quentin would go get him in his room and he'd go work out with him. That's leadership. Alex Barr is going to get a young lineman and working out with him, saying, hey, man, let's go do this together. And saying, hey, I have to leave a standard. I have to leave a legacy beyond just playing. I've heard that about J.D. Bertrand with Drake Bowen as a true freshman. How J.D. took Drake Bowen under his wing and said, hey, this is my legacy. It's not just what I did, but it's what I'm leaving behind, what I've established. My fear, and I don't know that this has happened, my fear, if it does happen, is that if the leadership doesn't hold itself accountable from a player standpoint, it doesn't really matter what the coach says or does. Those corrections that he will or won't make won't matter, and the legacy that these players inherited will be gone. That's honestly what's at stake. And you could say Rudolph has to do his part, no doubt about it. But there comes a point in time where you watch the film. Do you need Joe Rudolph to tell you that that's unacceptable? If you do, we've got a much bigger problem. Like if Joe Rudolph walks into the room and says to the offensive lineman, hey guys, great job. You battled your butts off. Their response better not be, all right, cool. Coach said we did well. All right, let's roll. Their response better be like, what the, did he say? Did he? No, I don't care what coach said. We know we didn't play to our potential. That's unacceptable. That's true leadership. So, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it in the postgame. We're going to find out what level of player leadership they have. One of the worst performances on Sunday night was from a redshirt junior captain at offensive tackle. How does he respond? How does Drake Bowen respond? How does Adon Schuler respond? Those three guys outside of Anthony Knapp have kind of had some of the more resounding negative feedback on social media, on the the premium message board, and so it's just going to come down to what's your response. But 4-1-2 in terms of your submission, I'm selling this. Demanding effort is different than begging for effort. Every position coach demands their guys to play at a high level of effort. Max Bulla does, Mike Mickens does, Mike Brown does, Mike Denbrock does. So Rudolph demanding effort since the beginning of fall camp doesn't tell me that it's, none of his guys are bought in and they're checked out. It's just that they need to put at the bare minimum, at the absolute bare minimum, you do everything at 100 miles an hour. Whether you get your butt kicked or you kick somebody else's butt, you do it with a high level of effort. And to Brian's point, I didn't see anybody give up on Saturday. There's just things technically that they have to fix. So I'm selling this one. Another one from 412. How serious are the short yardage run game issues? I seem to recall us having major issues getting short yardage for a number of years. Even when we went to heavy sets, Riley Leonard seems to have been a massive cure for this team last season in just about every aspect of the offense. Seems like when the whole world knows we're handing off, we get stuffed.
Sell. How serious are they? We have no idea. It's one game. I also reject the notion that they had issues in short yardage. Were there times over the 20 years that they were teams that had issues? Yeah, sure. Were there other teams that had – I don't remember the 2020 team having consistent issues moving the ball on short yardage situations. I don't remember the 2018 having those issues. I don't remember the 2017 having those issues. I don't remember the 2015 team having those issues. 2016 team did. 2019 team did. 2021 team did. Like, it just depends on the team and the year. And, like, yeah, I mean, heck, guys, the quarterback ran the ball on six designed runs. I think 5 of them, Trev, what were my numbers? 5 of them were efficient runs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, CJ Carr ran quarterback draw 4 times. They all were efficient runs, including a touchdown and another 13-yard gain. Like, now he should have been doing those things, and maybe Riley makes an even bigger play. But like the play where he got stuffed on 3rd and 1, you know who else gets tackled on that 3rd and 1 play? Riley Leonard, because you did not block the nose tackle. Literally, the nose tackle came through unblocked. Nobody's getting off that guy unless that guy just whiffs. You didn't block somebody. You had a blown assignment. That's not the court. Now, again, he should not have been running the ball in that situation, but it wasn't a Riley Leonard issue. It was a – now, do I think Riley Leonard was a great short yardage player? Of course. Should he have been your focus of your short yardage last year? Yes, of course. He was great at that. But him not being here doesn't mean, okay, if they block the same way and do the same things as last year, you're going to have less success. Because then I'd have to accept that the fact that you think that Riley Leonard's a better runner than Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price. And with all due respect, I don't believe that he is. So
the issue isn't Riley Leonard not being in South Bend. The issue is when you're down in the red zone and you're in a bunch formation and you're relying on Malachi Fields and Will Pauling to seal the edge on an inside run. That's the issue. It's not that Riley Leonard's out of town. It's the fact that you can't rely on one of your tight ends to come in and seal the edge. Not one. Like, do I think that Jack Larson is refined of a pass catcher and a route runner that Malachi Fields is right now, respectively, in their careers? Maybe, maybe not. But you got to get some of these guys up to speed and their ability to seal the edge on 2nd and goal from the 2. It's just got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bigger issue than just not having a 6'4", 215-pound quarterback under center. It's things like that. So that's going to have to get cleaned up if they want to be more effective in short yardage. But I'm selling this one as well. The Bees. Bees are 12 washing beard. Buy, sell, hold. The issues on defense were exasperated by a stagnant offense. The constant 3-and-outs caused the Notre Dame defense to tire out. Until the offense quits overly being conservative, the defense will continue to struggle.
Yeah, sell the heck out of this one. And Beezer, I love you, man. And you've been trying to fight the good fight for the last couple of days about somehow defending the defense, but no, man. Like, both things are true. The offense didn't play well, and the defense didn't play well. So no. Because here's another fact for you. Notre Dame gave up points after every single touchdown that they scored. Let me change that. They gave up points after 2 of the 3 touchdowns they scored. They gave up points. They scored their first touchdown to make it 7-7. The next time the offense came on the field, it was 21-7. How's that on the offense? The offense goes down the field, scores a touchdown to make it 24-24, and what does the defense do? They let them go 75 yards, not 75 yards, but they let them go all the way down and get a field goal. How's that on the offense?
Yep. All 3 of Miami's touchdown drives. Yep. All 3 of Miami's touchdown drives went for 75 yards. And I don't want to hear anything about the defense being exasperated because the longest drive of the day that they gave up was coming out of halftime.
Yeah.
Wasn't after giving up a 3-and-out. Their longest drive of the day went for over 7.5 minutes and lasted 75 yards after resting for 25 minutes. Got to get better. It's not just on the offense. Now, to the point of this submission, the complementary football end of what Brian was talking about was bad because the offense once again didn't score a single point in the first quarter of the game. I don't want to say once again, but the offense once again failed to put together offensive drives with any sort of consistency in the first half. That has to change. But the defensive issues weren't just because they were on the field for Miami's time of possession wasn't 44 minutes. It just wasn't. So has to get better in that regard. Has to be. Another one from Bees. CJ Carr had the best quarterback debut since Jack Cohn.
Well, Tyler's starting debut was bad. That was against against Ohio State. Drew's starting introduction was bad. It was against Cal. Sam Hartman was really good against Navy.
Yeah, I was just
I'll say no. Sam's was better. Now you could argue relative to the competition, maybe, but even then, like Sam went off in his first few games. He went off. Riley was solid against A&M last year. He was solid. He made some big throws late in the game. I don't think he necessarily overall played that much better than what CJ did. You could maybe argue he was a better played a better defense, arguably. But look, Riley last year led Notre Dame to 23 points. That wouldn't have been good enough against Miami. He passed for 158 yards, averaged 5.3 yards per game or per carry. If you look at his performance against Texas A&M last year, let me see here. Let's go total offense. Riley had 221 yards of total offense, 5.3 yards per play. I don't know that CJ's performance was much different than that. But then I look back at 2023 and I see Sam Hartman in the first game went 19 of 23 for 251 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And that was a better performance. The question would be relative to who the talent of the team. Navy stunk in 2023. You could then argue that, but I think Riley and CJ had similar games. The difference is Riley didn't turn the ball over, and this year they did.
Yeah,
and that proved costly. But I think Sam Hartman's was better without a lot of context of who they played. Because I don't know how Sam would have done against a better team. I only know what he did against the team that he played.
Yeah.
So I'll say that. Look, his first start was better than Ian Book's first start. If you remember, Ian Book's first start was not his first start of 2018. That was a really good performance. But his first start came in 2017, and he didn't play very well against North Carolina.
Nope.
Brandon Wimbush is actually, you know who else had a really good first start for Notre Dame? Brandon Wimbush had a really good first start for Notre Dame. I remember watching him in 2017 against Temple thinking like, okay, this is going to be a fun year. Went 17 of 30, 184 yards. First play of the game, he hits a big post corner route to Equanimous St. Brown. He ran for over 100 yards. I'm like, this is going to be a fun year. And just never quite could take it over. Malik was solid. Malik ran well in his first start. Because remember, Malik's first start was not Texas. It was against LSU.
Yeah.
And it was a big win, but I mean, he didn't do a lot of throwing in that game. And when they needed to throw, they brought in Everett. But if you look at regular season starts, it's hard to do much better than what Malik did against Texas in 2015. If you just look at regular season starts.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Sam's was pretty good.
Agreed. Another one from B. CJ Carr's no-look touchdown was the best play you've seen a Notre Dame quarterback make in the Freeman era.
I don't even know that it was his best play. It might have been his best play of the game. Yeah. I mean, Riley had some pretty darn good impressive plays last year. His more were running. You could argue maybe it's the best passing play. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to sell that because I still think that bootleg post route that Tyler Buckner threw to Braden Lindsey against South Carolina in 2022 is a pretty freaking big-time play. It's in the conversation, but, yeah. It was maybe the flashiest, and it was impressive, but I don't know if it was the best play you've seen from Notre Dame. I mean, I'd have to dial up that little read. So they were running Q counter left against Georgia last year. Riley recognized that they were over pursuing. He cuts it back for a 30-plus yard gain. That's a pretty big-time freaking play. So I'll sell. It was the flashiest pass, but I don't know that I'd even say it was not. I won't say it's the best play. It was, and believe me, that's not going to be the best play he had. And you could argue it was the most impressive overall play, but it certainly wasn't the best throw he had. The impressive part of that was not the no-look pass. That was did he just do that? The impressive part was buying the time to get open to make the play. That's what made that so impressive. But here's what I'll say about CJ's first game. The throw he made to Malachi Fields is the best throw I've seen a Notre Dame quarterback make in a long time.
Yeah.
I'd have to think back through the Ian Book era. Jack Cohn had some money throws, like the touchdown pass to Michael Mayer against Toledo, but he was wide open. I'm talking about just as holy crap, not a lot of people can make that throw. That throw to Malachi was on the back shoulder go route. We broke it down in the Upon Further Review last night. It's up on the premium board for those that want to go watch it. I mean, that was, I mean, I'll have to say, that was probably the best throw I've seen a Notre Dame quarterback make in this. And I have to think about this, but since probably Jimmy's touchdown had some back in 2009, he had a couple. I'm thinking of the USC one in 2017. He made one to Michael Floyd against Stanford. That was pretty nutty. But yeah, it's that part of it. Beezer was one of the more impressive throws that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, just from the moment and the spectacle of it, I'll buy it. I'm in the play in its entirety to evade the pressure, keep your eyes downfield, and then end it with a no look. I'll say this, and I hate to be that guy, but I also don't at the same time. if Arch Manning's first career touchdown pass in college was a no-look touchdown pass, that would be plastered on every single TV in America.
100%. And if he did it by weaving around to get by time, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So that was, and it was one of those where I saw the second on live TV, you get the rear view replay. I was texting a couple buddies. I was like, was that a no-look pass? Then some more videos came out of it afterwards in the end zone view, and it definitely was. It was pretty sweet. It was sweet.
Yeah.
So,
and no, impressive. The throw was not a little high. Somebody said the catch was good. The throw was a little high. No, it wasn't. That ball was put exactly where it needed to be. If it's lower, it's getting broken up. Like, seriously, no. Bad take. No. That was a perfect pass. The thing about it, it was an even better catch. The other thing, too, is if you go back and look at it, Malachi didn't get very high off the ground because the way the defender's playing him, Malachi couldn't jump real high to go get that. He had to go snatch it with his hands, which was it's a phenomenal throw. What makes that play so impressive was even better catch. Sidney Moore brought up one. I'd have to go back and watch the play again, but the one throw that Ian Book made, and I've talked about this one before, that you can maybe say matches the throw CJ made was that corner route touchdown he had against USC in 2018. And I've talked about that throw before. I have to go back and watch them back to back because that was, in my opinion, and I've said this before in the show. Thank you for that reminder, Sydney. That was the best throw Ian Book ever made. That was a gorgeous throw. And you have the playoffs on the line. You don't win that game, you're probably not in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
So that was a phenomenal throw as well. But this is what we were told he makes regularly in practice. This is what we were told. And we saw it. Yeah.
By so hold, Malachi Fields will have the most yards out of any receiver this year.
I'll buy that. I mean, we kind of had a similar submission in one of our recent Bison holds about who leads and catches yards, and I believe in that one we both said that we thought Malachi would lead the team in yards.
Yep.
So I buy that one. See, Beezer, we didn't sell them all, my man. We bought some of them. You're good, man. And just so you, like Beezer responded, so I'm like, if we say sell, if you put 3-4 things in there and we sell 2 or 3 of them, that's okay. Like that's not us. That's not, we're mad at you. You have bad submissions. That makes the show more fun. If they were all just like, I buy it and then confirming what you said, that'd make for a very boring show. I like submissions that sort of test certain theories or test certain accepted norms. Buy so hold, Notre Dame didn't play well against Miami. Bye. Next one. Like you have to make us think sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know people that have taken stances they don't necessarily agree with, but it went against the common sentiment to then make us think about how we're going to respond to it. And I think that makes for a great show. So Beezer, your submissions created great dialogue. Don't focus on did we buy it, sell, or hold it. Did it spark good conversation? Did it spark good dialogue? And that's what matters, and that's what makes for a good show, and that's where we appreciate those type of submissions. So it's not pushing back on you or anything like that. It's just I see it differently than you do, but it still sparks good conversation, and that's what matters.
Yep,
we appreciate you, my man.
Buy so hold, Notre Dame and Miami were the best looking top 10 teams this weekend.
Sell. You can maybe say Miami, but I thought LSU was more impressive than Notre Dame was. And Notre Dame's offense, to me, was still more impressive than Ohio State's, but their defensive performance wasn't anywhere close to how good Ohio State's performance was. So I'm definitely selling this one.
I'm with you.
Definitely selling this one.
Another one from Bees. Notre Dame and Miami will see each other in the postseason.
Hope by in this one. I would love a rematch against Miami. And the thing about it is, if you get a rematch against Miami, it means you've run the table and you've fixed the mistakes and you're going to be playing better football. So, yeah, I'm hope buying that one for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nice. That would be nice. From AST 12321, the rain and humidity ended up playing a bigger role than we expected.
So it was also raining humid for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to just dismiss this one, but like, no, in game one, humidity shouldn't have a huge factor in game one.
Not at night.
No. And not in the first quarter.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. And there's
It was
really
in the
only
70s by the time the game kicked off, Trev, right? Wasn't it like 78, 79 when the game kicked off?
78 degrees with high humidity. And look, at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of people, I think, that walked away from this game making it sound like that Notre Dame kicked off at 2 p.m. in the middle of a 90-degree sunny day down in Miami. The sun was gone. It was out, or it wasn't out. And really, if you go back and look, it affected all player. So in the first quarter, if you want to talk about that. So no.
I do want to talk about the popsicle thing because, first of all, the reporting on the sideline did not make Notre Dame's players look good. And that's fine. Their job is to make them look good. But this popsicle thing, Trev and I were talking about this. I think this needs to be cleared up. I don't believe, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure of this, that they weren't handing them like, dilly bars and like what was the one, Trev, that I talked about, the red, white, and blue,
the like rainbow ones, yeah,
like they're not doing that. They're not handing them freeze pops. These things are made specifically for players on a sideline with things that they need to hydrate and get a cold shock to their system. Like, they're not like popping the thing off, and the things we were as kids, you pop them up, like it's not that. These were things that were made for them to get their body temperature down, but then also it's filled with electrolytes and other things they need for hydration. This wasn't like, hey, run to the concession stand. Anthony Knapp needs a popsicle. It wasn't that. These are things that were like, where did you think they got them from? They were brought by the coaching or by the training staff for a reason. He wasn't popping freeze pops in there, flavor ice. It wasn't you know what I mean? Like they're handing out, well, we're going to use this for after the game, but I guess we'll
they just got him a cup of shaved Kona ice. He's just hanging out on the sideline eating a slushy.
Push-up pops. Right? They weren't that. Father Dave Anthony Knapp wasn't crushing creamsicles. No, he wasn't crushing creamsicles. But the way they talked about it, it made it sound really bad. Yeah. Like they're handing them like just popsicles. You know what I mean? Like they just had a bunch of popsicles hanging out on the sideline. There's some mom behind the bench who brought popsicles for her kids, and they're like stealing them from her to give to the players because they're too hot. They were intentionally brought there for the team because they knew it was going to be hot and humid. So like it was, he was taking. Look, I'm not an Anthony Knapp defender, but he's taking these because they were provided for him as an option to cool off, just like putting towels on the back of your head. Remember, I think it was in the Weiss era. I used to love these things. I was like, man, I wish they could have those. But they would take the like Notre Dame hats and they'd put them in this like special like liquid that was like cold, and they would put them on their heads, and that liquid would like cold liquid like drip down their bodies. They would do that on hot days. You remember seeing that on the sidelines, Trev, back in the day?
I do.
Like these things are all brought out by the training staff as a tool to make sure players are properly hydrated.
Yeah.
So
I viewed it like a Gatorade
water. It's got other things in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I viewed it as a Gatorade popsicle. Like there was no ice cream van that was parked on the sideline, getting ready to give the big boys up front some popsicles. So yeah, I agree. Another one from AST, buy, sell, hold. This was a choke game and not representative of who Notre Dame will be.
I don't know that I would call it a choke game. I think it was a bad game. I think it was a poor performance. It was a frustrating performance. I think that the tenor of what AST is asking, I buy. That I do think this won't be representative of who they are. But that's a hope buy, because until we see them play, and this is partly why I understand some of the overreaction to the game, is because right now this is all the evidence we have of who this team is.
Yep.
It's this game. They're 0-1. That's all we have. Or at least last year when they had the bad loss to Northern Illinois, we could point to, yeah, but guys, a week ago we were celebrating how great this team was when on the road to beat A&M. They don't have that right now. This is all we have. So to a degree, I understand some of the frustration. I think choke is a little strong. Actually, I just saw USMA's comment. He says choke is a little strong. And I agree with it. Was not representative who Notre Dame will be, in my opinion. It better not be. So I'm gonna buy the last part of that because I think the spirit of what you're asking, AST, I agree with. I don't love the word choke, but I don't want to get hung up on that word because I think what you're trying to get across is something I agree with.
Yeah, definitely buy the spirit of the submission. I'm selling the choke part though. I mean, look, at the end of the day, in my eyes, for a team to choke the game away, you would have had to have the lead at some point. Yeah. And Notre Dame never did.
Just choke the moment away is part of it, but I still don't think that's what it was.
No, I don't.
I love some of these comments. As RFA, good humor truck was on the sideline. I saw it. Somebody else said, we don't usually bring up BISO holds from the chat, but I think this one is important. J Wick 13, BISO hold bomb pops are the best. Buy. Definitely buy. We'll go with that one. So yeah, it's pretty. And Brandon's right. It sounded bad. The way that Molly McGrath was talking about it sounded terrible. It's like they're giving Notre Dame players creamsicles in the middle of a game. Like, what is going on? No, that wasn't it. And I think that I'm pretty sure that wasn't it. I'm pretty confident that wasn't it because otherwise, like, that just wouldn't make any sense.
Molly McGrath made it sound like they were having to wheel the stretcher on and off the field to get Anthony Knapp on and off in between huddles. Like, it just wasn't that.
Hannibal Lecter gurney thing to lift him up off the bench and send him out there all stiff-legged. I'm going. Here I go.
And in between each snap, just the ice cream truck just rolls onto the field and just It's like, hey, listen,
not happening in the game.
No, it's like, listen,
but the way she said it, it did sound like it. Like they got the GA, like, hey, Dom Spalding, make a run to the concession stand, buy all the popsicles they have back there. You know what I mean? It's like,
they made Anthony Knapp. They made Anthony Knapp out to sound like, a parent in a family of 6 at Disney World, just like with the fan and the water, and then just like
he's just
sitting on the sideline
about how hot it is, and Joe Rudolph just starts shoving popsicles in his mouth to shut him up from complaining in the back of the bench. Like, that was not happening. Anthony, stop complaining here. Have a popsicle. Shut up. That wasn't. But that's not how they made it sound.
He's just on the side like, Coach, it's hot. It's like, fine, here's another popsicle. Shut up.
Now, that part's bad. It's made it seem was complaining about how hot he was, and it's like, okay, now it's in your head. And certainly I think that adds to maybe the mindset not being the mental toughness of the moment, not being on Notre Dame's side.
Yeah.
Like, we're having some fun joking about the popsicle thing, but like, that early in the game, complaining about that tells me that he wasn't ready mentally for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't be like, oh, Anthony Knapp, he's not. The kid played in 3 playoff games. For whatever reason, he just wasn't ready for this moment, and that's disappointing. The kid's from freaking Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, this kid's played in hot human football before.
Mm-hmm. Another one from AST. I needed that laugh, bro.
Just look over the sideline and Anthony Knapp's, pounding bomb pops. You know what I mean? Like,
just sitting crisscross applesauce on the sideline.
Yeah,
and just looking
banana fudge popsicles. Just Emil Wagner's over there crying because Anthony took the last popsicle. He took the last, but not good.
Gerby Lambert's just eating a whole ice cream cake. Like it's just like, what's happening? Oh, man. All right. Back on track. Here we go. AST with a buy-sell hold. Knapp will have a PFF pass blocking score above 65 versus a P5 team that makes a bowl game.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, he's got a long way to go right now based on how he performed in the first game. I'm looking it up now. What was his pass blocking?
10.5. He had a 10.5 pass blocking grade on PFF.
That's just like really bad. Let's go to it's better than Gerby Lambert's apparently. And actually they upped it to 12.9. Styles is at 10.5. So they always go back in there and they'll alter grades after rewatches, but it was a 12.9. So if you go back and look at 2024, so A&M, he had a 35.7. Louisville, he had 65.3. So he's done it once. Georgia Tech, 86.3. Florida State, he was sub 65. Virginia, sub 65. Army, no. USC, 75. So he had 3. So he's had 3 games out of 16 where he's scored above a 65 against a Power 5 team. He's only had 6 total games and 16 starts with a pass blocking grade above 65. That's not good. He's had now 6 below 40. This is on a 100-point scale, by the way, folks. So, that's really bad.
Yeah.
That's epically bad.
Yeah.
That's not good. I mean, again, it's Pro Football Focus, so you've got to take that with a grain of salt. But just to give you a little bit of a look at it. So remember how bad Tosh Baker was in 2021 when he took over?
Yeah.
And Tosh starting against Purdue, how awful he was. He had a 28.2. That was over twice as good as what Anthony Knapp had against Miami, Ohio. It's not good. It's not good at all.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And look, this is all making Anthony Knapp look bad, but I'll say again, this is not on Anthony Knapp.
Yeah.
Anthony Knapp's a talented football player, but he's an interior player. He just is. I'm sorry. He should not be playing. Like, I thought Braxton Kay was a pretty darn good football player for Notre Dame 2011 before he got hurt. Would you agree with that?
100%.
How do you think he'd have looked if they'd have put him at left tackle?
Probably
not nearly as good.
Great.
Not nearly as good. Chris Watt was a heck of a football player for Notre Dame from 2011 to 2013. If you'd have switched him and Zach Martin, he wouldn't have looked as good. Would he have been better than what Anthony Knapp has been? Maybe. But he wouldn't have looked nearly as good as he was a guard. Not everyone can play in space, Trev. And Anthony's not good in space. He has no feel for it. No feel at all for playing in space. And I've said it for over a year.
Was there a point, I could be remembering this wrong, but was there a point where they flirted with the idea of moving Jarrett Patterson out to the exterior of the offensive line, and that was a very short-lasted experiment? Was that I seem to remember something about that.
They moved him to guard. He started at tackle, and then they moved him to center because Harry started almost everyone at tackle.
Gotcha.
Like at some point, he would start him at tackle, fall camp, and then work him in. That was always part of his plan, to just give him that kind of experience, and then just see who was comfortable out there.
Gotcha.
But Coach Easton understood that playing outside is not something that everyone can do. It's a lot easier to move a tackle to guard than a guard to tackle for that reason. Playing in space, you're on that island, is a very different animal. Very different animal. And as NH said, it makes the lack of competition at left tackle even more baffling. Amen, sister. Amen.
Couldn't agree, man. Couldn't agree more.
That's the frustrating thing. This just, oh boy. Just got a chat says, I'm listening to IB from Amsterdam. That's dedication to the Irish nation. Go Irish. That absolutely is. Thank you for that.
Another one from AST. Notre Dame will have to spend big in the portal to have reliable defensive tackle play like Brian Smith has suggested.
So Brian and I don't agree on that. If he said that, I don't think they have to go to the portal to do that. I think that we've seen from the recruiting that Al Washington's doing in the current class with Elijah Golden and Tiki Hola, if they recruit guys like that every year, they'll be fine. They had to go to the portal this year to get Jared Dawson because they haven't had that same level of success in the past. But I don't think they have to do that, and I don't think they have to spend big. If you give me a Jared Dawson every year in the portal, along with landing guys like Tiki Hola and Elijah Golden and Chris Burgess and Davion Dixon every year, you're going to be fine at defensive tackle. Fine. Just fine. I mean, look, Notre Dame's had an All-American defensive tackle in each of the last 2 seasons. They're arguably their best player during stretches of the season last year was a D tackle. Their best overall player was Xavier from start to finish. But there was a stretch kind of late of the season where I don't know that anybody on their football team outside of maybe Jeremiah Love at times was as dominant as what Riley Mills was late in the year last year.
Agreed.
And he was a D tackle. He was a homegrown, converted from defensive end, that kind of thing. Recruit and develop the right way. And then you don't, you can go out and get a D tackle like a Jared Dawson. And I'm good with that.
Another one from
let me say
AS.
this. I watched Ohio State dominate Texas's offensive line. Who was the big spending D tackle they got from the portal? They got guys from the portal, but who was the guy that dominated that game that they went and paid a ton of money for? Wasn't there. They went out and got depth pieces, rotation guys, good football players, but not this. They didn't spend like Texas spent at D tackle, right? They went out and got, Hero Canoe, right? I'm looking at, I don't even think he played. Will Smith Jr. played 16 snaps, graded out over 80, homegrown. Cade McDonald played 38 snaps. Pretty sure they got him from the portal. Let me go look Cade McDonald. Give me a second here real quick. I think he was a portal guy. Let me just go look that up. Give me a second. No, he's an Ohio State born. He's Ohio State born and bred guy. Cade McDonald. I'm thinking Tywone Malone. He had an over 80 grade. Jarquez Carter played in that game. He was a high school recruit. Edric Houston's a high school recruit. And Tywone Malone played 14 snaps. He was a guy that got out of the portal last year. That was their they didn't even play Hero Canoe, who they got out of the portal. I'm looking at PFF. He didn't even play snap. So Texas has got paid a crap ton of money to go get a bunch of D tackles. Whose D line played better in that game? So,
not wrong.
Now, if there's a guy out there that fits what you want and is your personality and has the, is a culture fit and he wants to come to Notre Dame and, sure, go get him. But recruit high school kids and develop high school kids, which is exactly what Al Washington is doing. Go get your Tiki Holas. Go get your Chris Burgesses. Go get your Davion Dixons. Go get your Elijah Goldens. And then as needed, supplement with guys like Jared Dawson. And I'm good with that.
Getting into part 2 of the Irish Breakdown podcast here, brought to you by FanDuel, brought to you by FanDuel. AST12321 is keeping us rolling here with the buy, sell, hold. The secondary coverage issues will be fixed by A&M week. What do you think, Brian?
Hope by. I'll say this, because they can be fixed by A&M week. Doesn't mean they will be. They can be. And I'm going to hope by that they will be. It just depends on how much does Chris Ash want to allow Mike Mickens to be the decider of what they do coverage-wise. That's something that Al Washington did. He leaned heavily on Mike Mickens when it came to how they're going to play their coverage structure. We'll see if Chris Ash is doing the same thing or if he's one of those "it's my way" guys. Because from what it looked like in game one, it was one of my way things.
Agreed completely. Buy, sell, hold. The majority of Notre Dame's captains will look like net assets to the team versus A&M.
I'm going to hope by this one as well. I hope that's the case, AST, but here's the deal, Trev. And here's why I'm hope buying it, and it's not even about it helps you beat A&M. It's going to be a really bad sign about the leadership of this football team if the majority of the captains don't play well in the next game. That means that's 2 straight games that they underperformed. That's a very bad sign. Very bad sign. So I'm going to hope by that one.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm hope buying it as well because it's not necessarily a hope. It's a necessity. You need your captains to step up, especially after a performance of what they had last game. So I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Buy, sell, hold. Miami would win more than 5 times if this game was played a total of 10 times.
So Notre Dame, I can't imagine Notre Dame playing worse than they did on Sunday night, and they lost by a field goal and had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to tie or win it. Absolutely sell this. Absolutely sell this.
Agreed. Then buy, sell, hold. The staff wasn't as blindsided as us about the offensive line woes.
I honestly don't have an answer for this one, AST. I haven't talked to anybody about this. All I can say is this. If the staff was not blindsided by this and they continued to leave Will Black at guard, then I have major questions about the entire offensive coaching staff in that regard. Having said that, I do somewhat feel like Mike Denbrock called that game like a guy who didn't have a lot of faith in his offensive line.
From jump. It's not like the play calling adjusted as the game went on. It looked like that was kind of the mindset going into the game. So I'm going to hope sell this for the reasons that you said. Hope sell. You don't hear that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Berto 21-21. Last year, the fan base was less confident in winning at A&M compared to opening this year at Miami. That is because of the SEC dominance, the title run, Miami being in the ACC.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I'm curious where I had A&M ranked last year. I don't remember. I'll buy that.
I'm actually going to sell this. I think going into this game, a lot of people had the 2017 PTSD. A lot. And there just wasn't a sample size with Texas A&M. I think that the actual stadium and the environment was more intimidating going into A&M. But and I'm not saying that there was just this utter confidence amongst the fan base that they would win at A&M. But it took a lot of convincing on my part to a lot of members of the Notre Dame fan base. IB community or not, that Notre Dame is able to hang in with Miami, because a lot of what was thrown back at me was, they're 0-6 in their last, 6 trips down there. I haven't won in Miami since the 70s. And I remember 2017. I was at that game. And so I think there was less confidence going into Miami than A&M. But that's just from my personal experience.
Yeah, my only experience is with the IB community. I don't really get on social media a whole lot. And, most of the people I knew were very confident going into this game. And a lot of people in this chat were not confident going into A&M last year. So it is kind of funny that how we felt, the exact opposite thing happened.
Yeah.
Which is going to make Wisconsin and Lambeau next year very interesting, because it just will. It just will.
Another one from Berto. Fan confidence level going into A&M this year will be worse given the loss to Miami.
Oh, sure. I mean, look at some of the stuff that we get in the chat. Look at some stuff on the board. You think this is going to be a sick? There's literally some guy banned. I think it was just, I won't even quote that knucklehead said, but you look at people on the board, it's like they're ready to write the season off. So, yeah, there's not – and to a degree, I get it. Right now, the only evidence we have of this football team is that they're not coached real well and they don't really play that well. So, yeah, I'll buy that. And it's understandable. This actually is understandable. Hey, after what I just saw on Sunday night, I need to believe that this team is what we thought it was going to be. And I won't believe it till I see it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of the things that we saw, Trevor, so I don't know how you fix that in 2 weeks.
Yep.
I get it. I get it.
I do as well. Biso hold, the perception of the lines coming out of camp as indicated by Marcus Freeman were presented as being legit. He mentioned the D-line is a major upgrade. So, in that light, Biso hold, that's because the offensive line is a dumpster fire, which would make most D-lines look superior.
I sell this. I think there's some truth to this, but I think you just went a little too far on it.
Dumpster fires is tough.
You got to be careful. Some people respond real negatively when you use the word dumpster fire, even though they have themselves have used it for about their program. But overall, look, could it be that the Notre Dame defensive line looked better because they were going against this offensive line? That's absolutely a possibility. Absolutely a possibility. But I still say that I think the defensive line played better than people think that it did. If you guys go back and rewatch the game, I was frustrated to play the D-line watching it live as well. We talked about it in the post-game show. Why has my stance changed since then? Not that they played great, but they played a lot better than we give them credit for. Just went back and watched the film. The film tells a different story. The first series wasn't great, but after that, they really buckled down and played better up front. A lot of the issues were structural. And those things obviously need to get fixed. So I'm going to sell this because I think there's some merit to what you're saying, Berto. I just think the language is a little strong on the O-line being a dumpster fire. They played really poorly. I just have a hard time believing that Emil Wagner's regression is going to be permanent. I've never seen a guy, if he plays like this the rest of the season, I will be able to say I've never seen someone fall further in one season than that.
Yep.
Come on. There we go.
No, there we go. Berto, Denbrock felt the only successful way to run the ball against Miami was to run the quarterback.
No, I don't think that's accurate. I think that in certain situations he felt that he liked the quarterback runs because he wanted to get an extra hat in the mix, but I don't think overall he felt that way. So I'll sell that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. By so hold, there will be over 3 more IB rants about the offensive line this year.
Are you mad at me? Like, are you trying to wish that upon me, Berto? I thought we were boys. God, I hope not. Because if there's over 3 more IB rants, then that means that we're going to see a lot more bad performances from the offensive line. So I'm going to hope sell this one. I'm going to hope sell this one more than anything I've ever hoped, sold, or bought in my life. And number one, guys, I don't enjoy those rants. I don't. And Trev will tell you this when we prep. I don't look for, hey, let's set me up for this one so I can go off. I've never done that before. I don't like doing that. But it just, in certain situations, I just get really fired up. And my normal, hey, I want to be professional and calm and kind of flies out the window.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if I love that notion. Because if there's 3 more rants, and again, I'm taking rants as a negative rant.
Yeah.
I don't think that he means good rants. If there's more than 3 the remainder of the year, that means the O-line is going to play really bad in a lot more games. And yeah, I hope not.
I get it. I'm hope selling this one too. You guys have been listening to me now for a little bit over a year, and I like to think of myself as a pretty even-keeled person in this show. I'm sure my friends in my personal life or my wife might say something different, but on this show, I like to think of myself as a pretty even-keeled person. Going off like how I went off on Sunday night is not something that I enjoy doing, to Brian's point. It's not fun because it's coming from a place where you're disappointed and frustrated. And so I really, really hope that there's not going to be at least 3 more. I'm hope selling that one too.
Yeah. And Tommy, I reject your suggestion. We will absolutely hope, sell, and buy things. If we don't have an answer to things, we don't know things, and the question is about something in the future. I can't definitively say I'm going to buy or sell something because it's something in the future that's unknown. And so I reject your Taylor Swift offer, and we will continue to do hope sells and hope buys. So noted, rejected.
Bang. By so hold. Marcus Freeman preached not to put too much pressure on Carr, and players around him needed to step up. The defense was reported to be fierce and aggressive. Neither was on display against Miami. So, by so hold, there is a disconnect between coaches as far as identity on offense and defense.
No, I just think we were fed a line of BS. Yeah, or what we saw in fall camp was not what Chris Ash did when they went to. Because like this whole, you know what? I take back what I just said because we saw enough of this defense to know that it wasn't BS actually.
Yeah.
What we saw in the opener, there's some other things that, you know, that we know about. People that I know that know football, coaches, not Notre Dame coaches, but people that are coaches were at practices prior to and at the jersey scrimmage talking about how fast and aggressive and fierce this defense was. I think when it came down, but what did we say? What was our concern? Okay, love what Chris Ash is doing so far, but how does he game plan? How does he call a game? That's the unknown. And our first bit of evidence of that is it's not a good sign. In practice, he's letting them play. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're going against an offense that they see every day. They're flying to the ball. They're playing great. I've heard that, and forget Notre Dame coaches telling me that. I've heard that from people that I know that are at those practices that know football, that have no reason to tell me something different. But all those practices that they saw were before they jumped into game prep for Miami. And what did you and I say, Trev? Everything we see so far is great. It helps alleviate my concerns about the hire because I did not like the hire. But what we said is, but what I don't know is how is Chris Ash going to be when it comes to game planning, play calling, and adjusting. And he went 0 for 3 in the first game. Now, maybe it's just a rough start. He hasn't called a game in a while, but 0 for 3. But that doesn't mean the first couple weeks of fall camp weren't what people told us they were, which is this team was flying around the ball. Yeah. And then and that could also explain why they played so poorly, because they weren't doing what they were taught to do. So, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. From Older Than Dirt, Notre Dame really needs Aeneas Williams healthy, or at least on the field for his blocking alone on quarterback runs and short yardage situations. The only film A&M has on him is from last year healthy.
So, Aeneas Williams rarely was a lead blocker for Riley Leonard last year. And a lot of times when they did stuff where they need a lead blocker, it was Jeremiah Love, not Aeneas Williams. I would say Notre Dame needs Aeneas Williams healthy just to make sure that they have a good stable of backs.
Yep.
Nothing that happened on Sunday night was because they didn't play Aeneas Williams enough.
Agreed.
And the one snap he did get, he didn't do a very good job.
No. Ran into the quarterback.
Right.
Another one from Older Than Dirt. Buy, sell, hold this week. The other proven third down blocking, running, and receiving back, Jabron Payne, should get a second or third look as the third down back until Aeneas is ready, because the coaches did not trust Nolan James on Sunday.
Again, I'm selling that. That's not the reason they lost. There is no better weapon on third down from throwing the football than Jeremiah Love. So, yeah.
I'm with you. You can't have both. You can't play. You can't toe the line of why didn't Notre Dame get the ball into the hands of Jeremiah Love? He needs more touches, and then also take him off the field on money downs.
Yeah,
you're going to have to pick one or the other. And I'm going to err on the side of keeping the best player on your team and one of the best players in college football on the field on money downs.
Now, having said all that, did I see some concerning things in game one regarding to how the running backs are being coached by Jaywan Sider compared to how they were coached by Dylan McCullough? You betcha. There are some footwork adjustments I didn't like. The timing in the run game, they were getting downhill way too fast. There were some other issues I saw that I didn't love. I do think they should use their entire backfield more, but we don't know that this was a decision by Jaywan Sider after one game because their primary third down back was injured. And, I don't know where Nolan James is I know Nolan James can run it, but I don't know where he is as a blocker and pass catcher. Not saying he can't be great at those things. I think someday he will be. I'm saying I don't know. So maybe this is true, but, I think if we're talking about how the third back was used in the game that they lost, I don't know that that's necessarily where, the tree we should be barking up. I think there's other things we could do. Having said that, I do hope that Jaywan Sider doesn't just come in and completely get rid of what worked for this backfield last year, which is making sure guys had very clearly defined roles. And I don't know that he's doing that or not because of injuries. Kedron's hurt. Aeneas got banged up. We'll find out how that goes as the season goes forward. But right now, there's a lot of coaches that are on my list of, okay, I got my eye on you. And after one game, Jaywan Sider and Chris Ash are both on that list. Now, the O-line coach is at the top of my list and all bold and highlighted with stars around it. But those other coaches are on there as well.
Agreed. By so whole, Jeremiah Love should not have had to have been the lead blocker for Carr's touchdown run. He can do it well, but that worries me by adding an extra hit on him when there are other backs who have the other tools to keep the defense honest.
They're not going to keep the defense honest, though. If you put Aeneas Williams in the game or Jabron Payne in the game at the 2-yard line to be a lead blocker, how dumb do you think defensive coaches are that they're going to be like, hey, I think that guy's going to get the ball, or hey, this team that we've studied for 2 years does this, they're going to run to the quarterback.
Yeah.
The best way to have keeping teams honest when someone other than Jeremiah Love is carrying the ball is to have Jeremiah Love on the field. There's no other way to keep someone honest for someone other than him getting the ball than for him to be on the field. So sell.
With you. Buy, sell, hold from Weiss's heart will go on. Buy one, sell one, hold one. The offensive line, the defensive line, or zone coverage.
I'm going to buy the defensive line. I'm going to hold zone coverage, and I'm going to sell the heck out of the offensive line. You didn't lose this game because your defensive line. I'm sorry, you didn't. You lost this game because your offensive line played like poo, because you turned the ball over twice, because your defensive system did not play to the strengths of your players. There's nothing wrong with zone coverage. I've seen elite defenses play zone coverage, but usually they also recruited zone coverage players to that system. And that's not what happened here. So that's my answer on that one, Trev.
Same order, man. The exact same order. From BB West 05, buy, sell, hold each one. If the offensive line continues to perform this way, then buy, sell, hold Freeman's.
There's another one on the next page, just to give you a heads up before you read them. There's when you get through those two, I'll bring that one up as well. That's part of it. So just wanted to let you know that one.
Right on. Buy, sell, hold each one. If the offensive line continues to perform this way, then Freeman steps in and tells Rudolph that Knapp needs to move and to play the best 5. We could be looking for a new offensive line coach by the end of the year.
Well, let's do it one at a time. So if he wants us to buy, sell, hold each one, then we'll just buy, sell, hold each one and then go to the next one and do the same thing. I'm selling this because I do know, I can confidently say that when Billy Schrauth returned from injury last year, the alignment was not what the offensive line coach wanted. It was what the people above him wanted, meaning he wanted to put Billy back in the game and take Rocco out. But that was vetoed by people above him. That's different than Marcus Freeman walking in and saying, move this guy. I don't think Marcus Freeman's going to do that, unfortunately. And I'm disappointed by it, but I don't think he's going to do that because I don't think Marcus Freeman, who for the first 2 weeks of camp was leaning towards playing Kenny Minchie at quarterback because he was concerned about CJ Carr's mistakes, is going to say, put a true freshman in a left tackle, whether that be Will Black or Matty Augustine. I just don't see it. So I'm selling that one. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong.
Since they're not outlawed, then I'm going to hope buy it. Because we watched Charles Jagasaw insert himself into the offensive line at left tackle last season. And he's kind of the one wild card of what happens when he returns. Now that's also going
to say that again. Now we saw Jagasaw
get inserted at left tackle last year in the national championship game. Now that was due to an injury, but
that's the point. Yeah.
But point being, it's, I don't, hopefully this is why it's a hope buy. They don't have to go to a true freshman at left tackle if the offensive line continues to perform in this way. Now that's also going to cause the right guard performance to also have to take a step up. But if the offensive line performs, against A&M and Purdue and Boise State the same way that they did against Miami, something will just have to get switched up. And if it doesn't, that alleviates my faith, not just in the offensive line coach, but the people above him as well. Because if you can look at those performances and let that continue to happen, then that's not just on Joe Rudolph. That's
right. That's 100% right.
So
I'm just not hopeful it happens because, to your point, if Knapp doesn't get injured and Rocco doesn't get injured, we don't see a down of
Agreed.
Charles Jagasaw in the playoffs
Agreed.
last year. That's a problem.
It is.
And the same guy that saw him in the national title game decided, let's move him to guard with no competition in the spring about whether or not he's your best left tackle. And look, I get the reasoning. I think that our best five, looking at it from Joe Rudolph's standpoint, is I think Charles Jagasaw can be a very good and I was told this. He thinks Jagasaw can be a very good left tackle, but an elite guard. All right, cool. I understand that. I don't necessarily even disagree with that. But does that mean your best five includes him at guard? Because what if he's elite at right guard, but your left tackle's below average? Whereas if Jagasaw's at left tackle and he's pretty good, but not elite, but Anthony Knapp is also pretty good at guard, isn't that your best five? He didn't even consider that for a second. Jagasaw was moved as soon as we got to the offseason to right guard. Thinking, okay, well, maybe, and then there's this justification. Well, maybe he's doing that because he knows Will Black's going to come in and get a shot to push Knapp. And if Knapp doesn't step up, then they'll turn to Will Black because they know he's a future top 10 NFL draft pick. So when they do first day of camp, moved him to left guard. So it's going to take Marcus Freeman to step in and fix this. I just don't think that Marcus Freeman sees Knapp as being the problem at left tackle. I think Marcus Freeman said in the past, I'm not an offensive line expert. I believe him when he says that. So what about it is going to make us think that he's going to do that? Now, my hope is that we saw when Billy came back, he kept Rocco in the game, and hopefully he sees this. I get it, but who's the left tackle you're going to turn to? You're going to have to wait till Jagasaw comes back. And now you have a left tackle dealing with a broken left arm.
Yeah.
That's not great. So,
yep, you're not wrong. You were not wrong. Next one on this list from BB West. Buy, sell, hold.
Sorry.
We could be looking at, you're all right. We could be looking for a new offensive line coach by the end of the year.
I'm not touching that one. I hope not. Because if they are, then that means things don't get a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I don't care what I think about a coach. There's only one coach I've ever taken joy out of him getting fired. 2. One of them was Brian Van Gorder. I don't enjoy coaches being fired. I don't enjoy the impact that it'll have on their families. I don't enjoy the impact it'll have on them as human beings. Just because you're a bad football coach doesn't mean that I'm happy you got fired. I didn't enjoy it when Jeff Quinn got fired. It didn't make me feel good because he's a good man. And he's respected as a human being. He just was not a very good offensive line coach. So I take no joy in saying I want a guy to be fired. I think you're at the point now where I don't see it being fixed because it's going to take a personality change. It's not just the issues in the offensive line, and I've been talking about this for over a year. People don't want to believe me. They want to call me a hater. They want to say, oh, these guys just left because they weren't going to start and weren't going to play. And I keep telling you guys, that's bull crap. That's not why they left. It's not why they left. Nobody wanted to believe me. Oh, no, Rudolph's, he's great. He's this, he's that. Look what he did with his injured offensive line, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, look what he did with that injured offensive line. He was forced to play guys he didn't want to play. And when he did, the line got better. And then when the other guys came back, he wanted to bench those guys. But the head coach and the OC wouldn't let him. Like, he didn't do this. The talent did. And now here we are, talking about the same crap over and over again. And you can't, push Emil Wagner with Gerby Lambert because he's now your right guard. Maybe if you had Rocco Spindler, Sam Pendleton still on the team, you'd have them at right guard, and Gerby could be pushing Emil Wagner. Or maybe he's pushing the left tackle, Anthony Knapp. But because you chased 3 guards off your roster in the offseason because they were Harry Heastand guys, now you're stuck where you got to move every 5-star tackle that you've recruited to guard. Sounds like a you problem.
I'll say this, and you guys know by now that I've came from a sales background. At the end of the day, there are some similarities between coaching and sales. Not the job per se, but the big picture aspect of it's a performance-based industry. I've watched people around me get promoted into roles that I didn't think they should have had because of who they were as people, but at the end of the day, they produced. And on the flip side of that coin, I've watched some people get let go from companies that were some of the best people I've ever been around, but they didn't produce. And at the end of the day, Joe Rudolph and any other offensive line coach that came before him or will come after him potentially, because like when I mean come after him, I'm not saying that I hope he gets fired. It's just Joe Rudolph is not going to be the offensive line coach at Notre Dame when I'm 70. And so for any offensive line coach that comes after him or anyone that came before him, they get evaluated based on performance. And it has nothing to do with who they are as people. Because I'm with Brian. I don't want to watch anybody get let go if they're great people.
I don't know he's a great guy. I don't know him personally. I'm just saying, like, I know he's a husband. Yeah. I know he's a dad. I know that when he gets fired, it doesn't just affect him. That's part of the business, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's partly why I got out of coaching. When I met my wife, I wasn't coaching anymore. We got into it for 2 years, and it was different as a husband. It was all just I couldn't look at it the same way that I did before. But at the same time, I've been telling you all this. I'm happy that people in the chat are saying what they're saying. I appreciate y'all remembering this, because this is not an overreaction to one game. This is a pattern that I've been talking about since 2023. It just is. And this isn't some overreaction take. Like I saw somebody in the chat saying the starting offensive line should look like, and he inserts a line. Nowhere on it does he have Billy Schrauth, who was your best offensive lineman on Sunday night. So, I mean, you get some wild takes on the offensive line. I've been consistent about this since he got here. I've been calling him out on this stuff since he got here. Poor communication with players, not knowing who to play, not having the right guys, all those type of things. Poor pass blocking technique that hasn't gotten a lick better. Like, you're in year 3 now. If it doesn't get fixed like ASAP, it's not going to get fixed. And then how do you fix it? That's why Marcus Freeman makes $9 million. It's not my decision. That's why I won't advocate for someone to be fired. It's a professional courtesy. It's just respect. I can think you're doing a crap job, and I'll call you out on your crap job, but there's a line I'm not going to cross unless you're doing something morally that I don't think you should do as a coach. And I did that recently with a receivers coach, if you remember. But at the same time, the dude's not getting the job done, and we're having the same freaking conversation now that we had in 2023. Same conversation we had now that we had when the season started last year, and you went with the guys that you went with last year. It's up to Marcus Freeman to decide if this is good enough or not. And it's up to Marcus Freeman to stop giving lip service to the notion of we're a line-driven program while you watch your offensive line get their absolute butts kicked in every big game you play outside of maybe one. A&M last year. Name me a good defense other than that where the offensive line played well. They didn't play very well against Georgia Tech. I mean, part of the reason they even ran for the 160-some yards they did is because Jadarian Price had 2 runs where he made dudes miss, literally unblocked guys at the line of scrimmage. They got their butts kicked in the playoffs outside of 1 run. And they got their butts kicked by Miami. You're in year 3 now, man, of this guy's tenure. Year 4 of your tenure. How much longer is this going to be acceptable? Because if it is and nothing changes, then what you're telling me is you think this is the best you can do at Notre Dame on the offensive line.
Yeah, you think this is the standard. Agreed. Final one on BB West lists. The offensive line plays good against average teams and come playoff time, it's the same mediocre performance against playoff caliber D lines, but nothing changes in the future.
I'll sell that, because there will come a time where Marcus Freeman's going to have no choice but to make a change. So, no, I'll buy that could happen this year. But if that happens this year, I was actually talking to Sean Davis about this before the show. If that happens this year, then I don't think Marcus Freeman is just going to sit back and take it again. I think the thing that hurt Marcus Freeman last year when it came to evaluating the offensive line is all the injuries. And in his defense, look, you lost your starting left tackle before fall camp start, or first week of fall camp. Your center gets hurt in the third game of the year. Your starting right guard gets hurt third game of the year, misses like 4 or 5 games, comes back. Get to the playoffs. Your right guard, who had been doing a really steady job for you, gets hurt. He's playing on one leg. Then he gets hurt. You got to put in a new guy that hadn't played all year. Then your left tackle gets hurt. You got to, like, there was never any continuity. So it's easy to go back and say, well, hey, he wasn't really given a fair shake because of all these different things that happened. Okay, fair. Winning the season, 6 career starts, all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, but those excuses are gone. Well, Jagasol's hurt. Well, what does that have to do with your tackles playing like poo? I don't understand what that, like, what does Charles Jagasol being hurt have to do with your 16 game starting, almost 1,000 snap playing right tackle just getting obliterated in almost every big moment of that game? Like, dude looked like he was doing calisthenics out of a stance, Trev. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, Landon Tangwa, like I said, did a great job of breaking that down. Like, this is just terrible technique. These are from veterans. That has nothing to do with Charles Jagasol being injured. Nothing. So now you have no more excuses.
Biso hold the defense will play more press man the rest of the way.
I hope by that one.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic, but I'm hope buying the heck out of that.
Me too.
I want to say something real quick because somebody in the chat said, is there a chance they're going to have a losing season? And what I'm very frustrated by the performance, and I get your concern. I do, because when you think about the play of the offensive line, you could see it being bad, and I get that. But Notre Dame lost on the road to a really good top 20 Miami team by 3 points, and the offensive line literally played the worst game I've seen an offensive line play in at least 4 years, since 2021, by a mile. By a mile. If they play that bad in every game, they're at least a 9-10 win team, because they almost just beat Miami at Miami. They'll out-talent everybody else still. That's why I'm not concerned about a losing season or 7 wins, but could a 9-3 season happen if the offensive line keeps playing like this? You betcha. You betcha. But just on talent alone, this team, if this team is worse than 9-3, then everyone needs to be questioned about their ability, including the head football coach. I just don't see that happening. Just talent alone, this team is going to win more than 8-9 games, in my opinion. And I can't imagine the offensive line playing this bad every week. I can't see it. I can't see it.
Biso hold the defensive line will be good against average teams, but average against playoff caliber teams. I mean, again, it's the same thing, BB West. I'm going to hope sell it. I'm not sure. Again, I don't think the defensive line played as poorly after going back and rewatching the game as I did initially when it was live. Miami, we also said this preseason. Even I, somebody that wasn't as high on Miami this year, said that they have a top 10 offensive line in the country.
That's the one thing you gave them a lot of love for, Trev, was and their ability to run block.
Yes.
Being the driver of it.
And I said that they had size. They had a lot of experience. Francis Maui-Noah was a first-team, preseason All-American on most lists. That wasn't just because he played for the heralded U. It's because he's a really, really good tackle. And I think a lot of those things came to fruition. Now, Notre Dame, I think, should have done some different things schematically to help out guys like Donovan Heinisch and not asking him to go nose up against 6'6", 350-pound Inez Cooper. But I've banged that drum probably too many times since Sunday. But no, I'm going to sell this. The defensive line is just getting started. You have to look. I mean, it was Bryce Young's first career start as a true sophomore, and Bubakar's coming back off of an injury. Jordan Botello is going to continue to play even more. And ideally, things get sorted out along the interior and they get set up for success a little bit better. So, no, I'm going to sell that one.
I also don't think the Notre Dame defensive line played average against Miami. They didn't play great. They didn't play average or bad. They had a bad first series or so. That's it. That's it.
Yep.
Like Donovan Heinisch had a couple bad snaps. Go back and watch the game. He had a lot of good snaps too. Jared Dawson played his butt off. Gabriel Rubio had one of his better games of his career. Jason Onye struggled early, settled in, played better in the second half of the game.
Yep.
Like I had somebody say, well, the D-line didn't play as well. Miami stopped being aggressive. I'm like, no, you have it completely wrong. They're not being aggressive meant they started running the football. If the D-line was playing bad, shouldn't that have meant that in those not as aggressive moments, they were dominating the Notre Dame defensive line? It's not like Notre Dame was loading the box. They shut down the run game because the defensive line was playing a lot better football. They had a bad start and a bad finish. There was a lot of good in the middle as well. They were coverage-ish structure issues that prevented the defensive line from having any impact on at least 15 to 20 plays. You could have literally let 3 guys run through and Carson Beck still getting the ball off on some of that stuff. A 3rd and 8, tight end runs an out cut, quarterback drops back, hits a step, throws the ball. There's no way a pass rush is going to get to him because nobody covered the tight end. That's not we're relying on too many easy outs. And we've created narratives based on our gut from the game, and we're not allowing a further analysis to give us a more honest assessment. And that's why I would encourage you, BB West, to go watch the Upon Further Review show we did last night that we put up last night. Watch the defensive breakdown. You'll see there were some good things from the defensive line and some not good things. They didn't play great, but they didn't play bad either, and they didn't play average either. And it was the first game. That's what, they're like putting the D line and the O line on the same level is just like crazy to me because like the D line didn't play to their potential. To Trev's point, they didn't play bad either. The offensive line was horrendous, and not even per their standard. They were horrendous for anyone. The things we saw late in that game, especially, were like, guys that do that shouldn't even be on scholarship at Notre Dame, like talent-wise. Now, we know Emil Wagner's not that bad because we've seen him play way better than that. But, like, that's what makes it so frustrating and puzzling. And that was at the end of the game where the worst snaps that Donovan Heinisch had were at the beginning of the game. He kept playing the rest of the game, y'all. He didn't come out of the game at halftime. So, I just see it very different.
No, I'm with you. I said it in the postgame show. I mean, look, again, I understand it's a betting service, but on FanDuel, the only players over who hit, I think, might have been Mark Fletcher's. I think. Bex went under. Jordan Lyles went under. All of their receivers went under, except for Malachi Toney, but I don't think you were allowed to bet on him because he's like 17. So, I mean, it's just the defensive line is not, to your point, Brian, the cause as to why some of those things happen the way that people think that they do.
Somebody in the chat just nailed it. Tillian Plays just said, if the D-line played the caliber of the O-line, we lose by 30. Amen. Amen.
People also forget that this was Jason Onye's first real game back playing since Louisville of last year. He didn't play in the postseason. So, and for him to go in and make the starting lineup and play at that performance, I think is noteworthy. Has to get better. But he wasn't playing in the postseason last year either. Then by so hold, Notre Dame can't reach their full potential with Rudolph. I mean, it's his 3rd year, and it's still the same.
Barring something dramatically changing with him, unfortunately.
Yep. All right, from ATX Sam, buy, sell, hold these 3 statements. The
now,
Miami law.
I believe, Trevor, did you look at the thing? I believe he wants us to buy one, sell one, and hold one.
Yeah,
I believe is what ATX Sam wanted here. So, yeah, buy one, sell one, hold one of these 3. So, yes. Okay, so we'll make sure we're clear.
Yes, sir. The Miami loss is primarily due to Miami being a good to great team. The Miami loss is primarily due to the Notre Dame roster being less talented than perhaps expected. The Miami loss is primarily due to coaching mistakes and or a poor game plan by Notre Dame.
I'm going to buy that Miami loss is primarily due to coaching and mistakes and or poor game plan by Notre Dame. I'm going to hold that the Miami loss is primarily due to Miami being a good to great team. I think that absolutely played a role in it, but not as much as the poor preparation and game plan. And I'm absolutely selling with severe emphasis, emotion, feeling. I can say as strong as I can sell something that the Miami loss is primarily due to the Notre Dame roster being less talented than perhaps expected. That is, in my opinion, not even 1,000% in the conversation as to why the Notre Dame lost. I would actually argue the fact that Notre Dame only lost by 3 is exactly because this roster is as good as we think it is. The defensive line played solid football. The coverage structure was terrible. They gave up every big third down imaginable. The offensive line had one of the most miserable performances we've ever seen. You had 2 turnovers that gave Miami the ball inside the Notre Dame 30-yard line, and you lost by 3 in a game where you had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to tie or take the lead. The only reason this game was close on Sunday was because the talent is exactly what we thought it was. Because you got a quarterback that, being young, made some ridiculous throws and reads. And I mean ridiculous in a good way. Because you got running backs that, for all the issues you have, are still just eventually going to pop one. Because you had a tight end who is so talented that he could play a very mediocre game and still catch 5 passes for 97 yards. Because you still have Boubacar on defensive end. Like, the fact that Malachi Fields making crazy catch. The fact that it was a 3-point game is 100% because this is a very talented football team. Past Notre Dame teams would have lost this game by 2 to 3 touchdowns at least.
We watched it in 2017.
Yep.
That's why I'll go back to what I said yesterday. That's why that loss was so frustrating, is because of the level of talent on this roster. It's not because Notre Dame has a team full of a bunch of average athletes that are just, really smart, intelligent football players, and they just got outbeat and outclassed by a better program and by better talent. That's why this loss was so frustrating. Brian, my order for these is the same as yours.
It's got another one just like it. But this
Love
one,
it.
they were a little bit longer, so I'm going to see it. It's going to be on 2 pages.
Yep. Bryce hold each one of these 3 statements. 1, the panic level regarding how this season will turn out for Notre Dame fans after the Miami game should be a 1 to 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being no panic, 10 being code red. 2, the panic level for Notre Dame fans after the Miami game should be 4 to 6 on a scale of 10. And 3, the panic level for Notre Dame fans after the Miami game should be 7 to 10 on a scale of 10.
I'm selling that it should be on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm selling that it should be I'm holding that it should be 1 to 3, because if you're going to err on the side of, let's give a little bit of benefit of the doubt to coaches that just took their team to the title game, and we shouldn't be in full panic mode. But if we're going to make a mistake, make the mistake on the side of giving them the benefit of the doubt in this particular instance because they've earned it. But the one I'm buying is the panic level should be in between 4 to 6. The performance of the offensive line and the dramatic change from a structure standpoint of the defensive coordinator is enough to say I can't say I'm in a 1 to 3. But I'm also not so emotionally tied into the game and unwilling to go back and rewatch it and break it down and be an open mind to say I'm on 7 to 10 either. But and that should not be the side we err on. It was one bad game.
Do you have
I'm in the 4 to 6 range. I'm in like a 4 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Yeah. I'm at a 4, maybe 5. And if I said, okay, I can't be 4, am I 3 or I'd be 5 instead of 3. You're a team who says we're a line-driven program and neither line played like champ. Like, I think the defensive line played better than people are giving it credit for, but that's to say they weren't terrible, like some people think. They did not play championship caliber football, nor did I necessarily expect them to in week 1. I'm the one that's been all offseason telling people, guys, I don't know that this is the breakout year for Bryce Young. And I don't know that we're going to get the best version of Boubacar in September. Like, it's going to take some time for these guys to really find their zone. I'm actually not terribly upset. There's things I didn't love about the play of the defensive line, but some of the things I didn't like were more of a usage problem than it was, I don't think they can play. I broke down 3 short yardage situations in the game from Sunday night where the D-line just whooped Miami in very key moments, just whooped Miami across the board. Like, not just – there was one play I broke down last night where it was like Josh Burnham killed the tight end. Jared Dawson came off and just rocked the double team. Gabriel Rubio just whipped the guard, and Boubacar, I think either Boubacar or Kingston came off backside and just blew up the run. It wasn't like one guy making a play. It's like the whole D-line just dominated that particular snap. I saw 0 snaps like that from the offensive line. And that's majorly concerning. To go from what they were on Saturday to competent is going to be needed, like a pretty big improvement in 1 week. And the sad thing is from just some little things I've been told, I don't know that Joe Rudolph sees it the same way we do, which concerns me. Like, if Harry Hiestand had an offensive line that played like they did on Sunday night, I promise you guys, that next week for that offensive line would have been the most miserable week of their lives. Like, he would have been so upset and pissed about that lack of just playing the way they're taught, fight, just where's your heart and soul? Games on the line, and you just give me this. I'm not saying Coach Hiestand would have made changes. I don't want to say that he would have done that. He wasn't someone who just willy-nilly changed linemen in the starting lineup. But I promise you people would have been put on notice. And I don't know that Joe Rudolph is going to do that. Because I think Joe Rudolph is a very stubborn coach who thinks that his decisions are correct. And instead of saying, I don't care what other people say about my decisions, I have to own them. And I have to be accountable to them. And I have to be willing to say sometimes, like every other coach in America, just like Brian Driscoll did when he was coaching, just like Marcus Freeman does, just like Nick Saban did when he was still coaching, just like Kirby Smart does, just like Dabo does, just like Ryan Day does. Every coach makes mistakes. The great ones are ones that are willing to admit it and then course correct. And I don't know that Joe Rudolph has that in him. That's my fear.
I'm at a 5.5 personally, and the offensive line was just enough to get me there. And there's some stuff, and I talked about this on the message board. There's some stuff that I will just chalk up to it's week 1. Eli Raridan having 3 drops, that's week 1. Malachi Fields fumbling the first time he touches the football, I'll chalk that up to week 1. The offensive line regression and the regression of some of the players on defense is what has me at a 5.5. Mm-hmm. What I'd never want to see is a player go backwards. On the last drive of the game, Ruben Bain hit, I think it was Emil Wagner with just a chop, just a normal, just hit his arms out of the way, and that was enough for Emil Wagner to spin, do a full 180, then attempt to try to box him out like a basketball player going for a rebound. There is not an offensive line coach in the country that, you know how bad that looked? That was to the point where my wife, who never played a snap of football in her life, obviously looked at me and said, that's not supposed to look like that. To the point of everybody.
And it's not like your wife is a coach's wife, Trev.
Nope. Nope. And it's to the point where, yes, I understand that Coach Freeman has talked about, I'm not an offensive line expert. Hey, buddy, you don't have to be. Coach, you don't have to be an offensive line expert to look at that and say that, yeah, that's not supposed to look like that. Don't have to. Regression from an offense. And look, the defensive line that Notre Dame went up against in week 1 against Texas A&M with Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner had very similar body types and talent levels to that of what Miami had. And they played significantly better. Regression is what has me at a 5.5, borderline 6. Now, that could change very quickly depending on how they come out against Texas A&M, but it's got to get fixed real quickly. Real quick. Buy, sell, hold from B Plents 1189. This will be the offensive lineup by the end of the regular season. Left tackle Charles Jagsaw, left guard Billy Schrouth, center Ashton Craig, right guard Anthony Knapp, right tackle Emil Wagner.
If it's 100% made a decision 100% made by Joe Rudolph, I'm selling this. If it's a decision that I think that Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock step in, then I would buy this. I would also sell it if this is the offensive line that Brian Driscoll is going to come up with, because the way that I see things right now, neither one of those guys on the right side of the line should have secure starting spots anywhere after the way that they played on Sunday night. And I'm going to let Gerby Lambert continue to develop, because the one thing I got out of Gerby Lambert is even when he made mistakes, he fought. Like the play where he blocked the wrong guy, he actually did a pretty good job blocking the wrong guy. You know what I mean? He blocked the wrong guy, but he actually blocked the wrong guy pretty well. You know what I mean? Like that I can fix. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to sell this one, as Brian likes to say, with ferocity, for a laundry list of reasons that if I went into it, we'd be on this question for the next 25 to 30 minutes. So I'll just leave it simply as I'm going to sell this.
Yeah.
Buy, sell, hold from Jalen G. Of the 5 offensive line positions, 2 will have different starters for the A&M game.
I'm selling.
Yep. Me too.
If this was a bot, I mean, I think there's going to be one, potentially maybe one. Like I could see them maybe starting Sullivan Absher over Gerby. I think that'd be a mistake after one game. But I don't think he's going to make more than one, barring injury. I don't see any way in the world. Guys, if he wasn't willing to start, to even give Charles Jagasaw a second look at left tackle, what makes any of us think he's going to let Matty Augustine or Styles Prescott start at left tackle over Anthony App on performance?
Yeah.
Like, what makes any of us think that?
Got none. I'm with you. From Brother Thomas, the only thing holding this team back from a national championship this year, even with a redshirt freshman at the helm, is solid offensive line, and Al Golden still leading the defense.
I mean, it doesn't have to be Al Golden. It could be someone else who wants to buy into the, let's build around the players and not me. But overall, I get the point. I'll buy the point.
Buy, sell, hold from John. I'm sorry, John. I'm going to butcher your last name. So, buy, sell, hold from John. Coach Denbrock will continue to count on CJ or Kenny to win games rather than consistently hand the ball off to a proven backfield.
Sell. Again, I think this is a misrepresentation of how the game went on Sunday night, but I'm not going to convince anyone otherwise. So I'm going to sell this.
Yeah.
He was calling plays last year too, right?
I seem to remember that. Another one from John. Coach Denbrock will adjust to his perceived lack of confidence in his offensive line and call a game plan that will help them out, i.e. moving the pocket, play action, running the ball, the things lesser teams do all the time who don't have 4- and 5-star talent.
I think he tried to do that on Saturday.
I was just about to
Sunday night, I mean. I think that's what he tried to do, but the performance was so bad. Like, guys, you can't spend a whole game bootlegging and sprinting out. Got to be able to drop back and throw the football from time to time. And Emil Wagner gave up a pressure on a sprint out. They moved the pocket on the second touchdown pass, and Emil Wagner still almost gave up a sack. What do you want him to do?
Buy, sell, hold. We will all, as a fan base, be thoroughly pleased with the offensive play calling and schemes that feature CJ and Kenny running quarterback power 25 times a game.
So,
Ballpeen Shillelagh. Buy, sell, hold. Riley Leonard masked offensive line deficiencies even more than we thought last season.
I mean, we've said this, so buy. I mean, we've talked about this. Like, literally, we've talked about this. We talked about this during the season last year. We talked about this during the offseason. Like, I absolutely believe this, Ballpeen Shillelagh. Yes, that's an absolute buy. We've been saying this. One of the things we brought up as concerns for the season was, is the O-line going to be as good as people advertise, as good as it should be based on its talent? It was a question. But yeah, that was absolutely a concern that we had.
Another one from Ballpeen. Buy, sell, hold. The offensive line play was a key part in Freeman's difficulty in deciding between Kenny and CJ.
Sell. It was all about CJ being too aggressive and turning the ball over. That's what it was about. Did I just go too far? Okay, there we go.
Buy, sell, hold. If the offensive line play improves to just good enough, CJ's performance in the Miami game is enough to predict a massive breakout for the wide receiver room. That I can get on board with, Ballpeen. Look, at the end of the day, we're all not upset because the offensive line was just okay. We said last Thursday in Keys to Victory, Miami's defensive line is good enough that my expectation for Emil Wagner and Anthony Knapp was to not dominate Reuben Bain. It was to do your job, and it was to just not
don't
to
get dominated,
but just to hold on, like what you did against Nick Scorton in the opener last season. And what happened was the complete inverse, and you got absolutely worked for 60 minutes, absolutely worked, and they lost by 3. So yes, I absolutely buy that a massive breakout is on the horizon for the wide receiver room if the offensive line can just do their job. That's it. They don't have to. And again, to Brian's point, this is something that we talked about all offseason. They don't have to be 2015. They don't have to be 2017. They don't have to be 2020. Just do your job. Just don't get absolutely cooked.
I mean, literally, we said in the game, just don't get dominated. That's literally what we said about the tackles. Don't get dominated. And they got dominated. I set a pretty freaking low bar.
Yeah.
And they didn't even reach it.
Buy, sell, hold from JG Town, just off of week 1 performances. Who wins the ACC? Miami, Florida State, or Clemson?
Oh, based on week 1, Florida State wins that league handily.
Yeah.
Handily. It's Florida State 1, Miami 2, Clemson 3. That's exactly how that looks based on week 1. So I buy that. I buy Florida State, hold Miami, sell Clemson. Clemson looked like the exact same team they were last year. Offensive line that's got big guys, experienced guys, did nothing. Defensive line that's got all the talent in the world, can't really get to the quarterback with any kind of consistency. And outside of Avian Terrell, their secondary is just kind of okay. And once they lost Antonio Williams, which is a big part of that game, who knows how that game goes, they never really truly threatened LSU in the second half. It looked like same old Clemson. Look, they look no different than they did last year. Miami and Florida State both looked way better than Clemson did in the opener. And they all played good teams.
Yeah.
I would argue that Miami played the best team of any of those 3 teams. Miami played the best opponent. Florida State had the most convincing win. Clemson obviously got beat at home.
Another buy one, sell one, hold one from JG Town against Texas A&M. The running backs will carry the ball 15 times or less, 25 times, or 35 times or more.
I'm going to sell 15 times or less. I'm going to hold 35 or more. I think that's too much, and I'm going to buy 25. I would say 25 to 30 is where I think the running backs will be in the game. And I'm going to say running backs, I'm talking about Love and Price, not like, that's where I'm at.
Then buy, sell, hold. This week's most intriguing matchup is another buy one, sell one, hold one. Illinois versus Duke, Iowa versus Iowa State, Boston College versus Michigan State.
The heck? Of those 3, I mean, I think the most intriguing matchup of the weekend's not on here.
Yep.
I think that's Michigan and Oklahoma. But of those 3, I'm very much looking forward to. So I'll buy Boston College and Michigan State. I'll hold Iowa State, and I'll sell Illinois and Duke. I was not overly impressed with Duke. they had a convincing win, but like it was an ugly, pulled away late, made a lot of mistakes, let a team hang around early. I'm just still not sold on them. So that's the order I'd go in. I think Iowa State might be the best matchup of the two best teams, but I don't find that matchup overly intriguing.
Yeah,
because we see it a lot. You know, it's not like it's not a conference game, but it's a rivalry game. It's not as intriguing to me as the other. But BC, Michigan State, two teams that opened with wins. I thought Michigan State came out of the gate on fire and then just kind of stalled the rest of the game. BC annihilated their opponent, but I think they also played a far inferior opponent to who Michigan State played in the opener. So I'm very curious, what do these teams look like in week 2? Iowa State, I think they're both good football teams. I don't know that we'll learn a ton about either one of those teams. Illinois, Duke, it's interesting, but not as much as the others. So that's where I'm at. Thoughts on that, Trev?
That's the same order. It'll be a fun conversation around what takes today, Iowa State's offense or Iowa's defense. But I'm still more looking forward to Boston College versus Michigan State. Those are two up-and-coming teams that are looking to kind of take that next step. And it'll be interesting to see which one prevails.
I'm also very curious to see, like, everybody keeps saying there's no good games this weekend, and I don't agree with that. There's not as good, and there's not like top 10 matchups like we saw last weekend. But these are all three going to be good games. You've got Michigan, Oklahoma. Another game that nobody's talking about because it's the Big 12, basically, but Baylor SMU is a very interesting game.
Yeah.
Very interesting game. The way Virginia looked in the opening weekend compared to the way NC State looked, I'm very much looking forward to seeing that NC State-Syracuse game. So there are actually a couple games this weekend. Oklahoma State at Oregon. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. Kansas at Missouri. I mean, Missouri's 1-0 with a big win. Kansas has looked great in their first two games, Trev. Great. And so I believe that people who keep saying that there's no good games on this weekend, it's terrible games, are people who only care about the top programs and think only the top programs play good football. I think there's several really intriguing games this weekend. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech's an interesting game, not as much as some of the others, but that's a very interesting game. And then just from a pure storyline standpoint, you know, Clay Helton going back to USC is at least an interesting storyline. But, I think there's 5 or 6, 7 really good games this weekend. There's just not the top 10 versus top 10 or big brand versus big brand matchups this weekend. But there's some very good games this weekend, including some games between old rivals who used to be in the same league, like Missouri and Kansas. That used to be a big rivalry in the Big 12. It's not anymore because they're not in the same league, but I actually do think there's good football on this weekend. It's just not the big time weekend like the last week, but it's not a bad weekend of football, in my opinion. It's not.
Agreed. Getting into part 3 of the Irish Breakdown podcast today, here brought to you by FanDuel. We're doing buy, sell, hold. Domer Grizz is getting us kicked off on part 3 here. The buy, sell, hold, the offensive line struggles can be fixed before Texas A&M.
Okay, can I just say, Trev, I love these two submissions.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he asked these two submissions. So, to your first question, buy, sell, hold, the offensive line struggles can be fixed before A&M. Absolutely. Absolutely. They can be fixed.
Yeah. Can be. Absolute buy. What about the inverse? The offensive line struggles will be fixed before A&M.
Sell. They'll be better. They won't be fixed. There's a difference. They won't play as poorly as they did this past weekend, but there's still going to be some residue of the issues that led to this poor performance.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better by default. On one hand, I legitimately don't think it can get worse. I don't care what level of competition you play. I genuinely don't think it can get worse.
Can I give you a bad scenario? That
Sure.
It can get worse by Billy Schrouth and Ashton Craig in the next game play as poorly as the tackles did.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I guess that's...
It can't get worse at tackle. Literally, there's no way you can play worse than they're not physically capable of playing worse than that.
Oh, agreed. Barn just
they're
quitting, which I just don't think that happens.
But at least I thought Billy and Ashton played good football. Not great football, but good football.
Mm-hmm.
And Gerby and Sully both had some big first game mistakes, but also had some really good blocks in the game as well.
Yep. And then on the flip side of that coin, I also don't think Texas A&M has a Reuben Bain on it. Like their D-line is good. Like they have good quality players there, but I don't think they have a Reuben Bain. I don't think they have an Akeem Messidor. I don't think they have a Justin Scott. So I think by default, it will just look better. But looking better and the struggles fixed are two different things. Because you might have the same fundamental issues, but if you're not going up against like a higher caliber of talent, then it might be a little deceiving. So now I buy that they can be fixed. I'm going to also sell that they will be.
It's like this, Trev. You got a pipe in your house that's got a hole in it, and it's just pouring out water. That's the Miami game. So you go grab a T-shirt, and you wrap it around it, and you cover up the hole with a T-shirt. Is water coming out as aggressively as it did before? No. Did you fix the problem? No. Because water's still going to leak out because it's going to get into the shirt, start dripping down, and you're still going to have water problems. That hasn't been fixed. But you've made it not as bad. That's what I think will happen. But it can be fixed.
Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Yep. I'm with you. Another one from Domer Grizz. The defensive game plan against A&M will not include allowing wide open receivers to routinely catch the ball in space with room to run.
Unless they fix something, I'm going to sell that because that wasn't the plan against Miami. They just got beat.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, let's not cover the running back and slot receiver. What was the plan? They just made mistakes.
Yeah. From Burnout 85, the team was dealing with some training camp fatigue, which led to some of the pregame preparation issues.
Sell. That's a cop-out. Sell. If they were dealing with some camp fatigue, then the coaches did a poor job preparing for them this game because Miami started camp the same exact time Notre Dame did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Biso Hold, Freeman, and Denbrock are giving Rudolph excess latitude with personnel to allow Rudolph to sink or swim this season.
Sell because you're putting on them motivations that I don't think are there for them. And if they were going to do that, that's coaching negligence. If you have an offensive line coach that you have to do this with, you should have never had him as your offensive line coach to begin with. That would be an absolute dereliction of duty if Marcus Freeman knew that he was this kind of issue and, hey, we're going to let him sink or swim. That's terrible leadership. If you think if you're uncertain about him sinking and swimming, either A, get a new line coach, or B, you got there and get him the resources and help he needs to then do the job. So I'm going to sell that.
Yep.
I think this could ultimately be the outcome of the season, but I don't think it's a master plan by Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock.
From God, Country, Notre Dame, and Barbecue. Biso
One
Hold,
of my
Notre
favorite
Dame
names, by the way.
Oh, love it. Notre Dame's poor performance against Miami can be boiled down to Marcus Freeman not being a good September coach, considering the pattern he has showed us in his tenure.
I'm going to sell that, and the next one, we'll just bring the next one into it. He says, Coach Biso Hold, Coach Freeman is much better November, December, January coach than he is an August and September coach. I mean, December, January, sure, I buy that. I don't know that I could sit there and say November because they've had their fair share of bad performances in November as well under Marcus Freeman. They lost to Clemson 2 years ago in November. They lost to USC in November of 2022. They almost blew a game in November against Navy in 2022. Like, I don't know that I necessarily buy that. I think most coaches are better as the season wears on. I also think that it's not a September problem or an early season problem because one of the best games Notre Dame has had, one of the best wins that Notre Dame has had in his tenure was last year to start the season against Texas A&M. One of their best wins of the 2023 season was a September win over NC State, where they went on the road and whooped NC State in the second half of that game. Notre Dame lost in September to Ohio State, but I thought Notre Dame played their butts off that game. They just got beat by a better team. So I don't buy this. I sell this. I think it came down to Marcus Freeman not being a coach who can consistently get his team to play with a similar level of execution, focus, and intensity. That's been an issue for Marcus Freeman, not he's a bad September coach. Because if his team would have played from an execution and intensity and speed standpoint against Miami that they played against Texas A&M as a team, they would have beat Miami convincingly. So I sell that. I think there's issues. God Country Notre Dame Barbecue. That there's issues that Marcus Freeman has to address. This ultimately falls on him, but I don't think it has to do with this, because I could point to bad moments in October and November as well. I still just get so upset thinking about the Clemson game in 2023. I believe that was a November game, right?
Yeah. Isn't this just indicative of like the majority of football teams in college football? How many times do we walk away talking about a team? You don't want to see them in November. You don't want to see it. Like, look, it was Marcus. It was also Marcus Freeman's first time to see this team that put together this way with this defensive coordinator in a live game action. And it was just against the number 10 team in the country on the road. Like, there's stuff that he learned about that unit on Sunday as well. And so I'm with you. I'm selling this. I'm not just it's just not as easy to say he's not good in September, but great in November, December, January. But it's just it's not that simple.
I mean, because in 2023, November, Notre Dame's best month of the year was really September. I mean, they lost to Ohio State in a barn burner at the end. That was their fifth game of September. I mean, they blew out Tennessee State, blew out NC State, blew out Central Michigan. I mean, that September was better than October when you got embarrassed by – and also in September, you went on the road and beat a ranked Duke team in September. Like, October, you beat USC and Pitt, but you also got your butt kicked by Louisville. In November that year, they got embarrassed at Clemson, just where they just didn't battle. And then after that, you played two bad teams.
Yeah.
So, look, I think the issues are not about beginning of the season, end of season. It's about a consistency. Can you get your team to consistently perform without needing some sort of external motivation to do so? Can you get your team to play consistently? That's a much bigger issue than he doesn't get his teams ready to play in openers, because I think he had his team emotionally and physically ready to play. This is the first opener where Notre Dame wasn't physically and mentally ready to play. They were ask any if there's any Ohio State fans in the chat, you remember that game against Notre Dame in 2022. Did you think that game was about Notre Dame not being physically and mentally ready to play? I think it was about Ohio State had better players. Yeah. In the second half of that game, Ohio State had a quarterback that was just making throws where it's like, I don't know what you're supposed to tell those Notre Dame defensive backs. They're in great coverage. He's just throwing absolute dimes. They represented themselves very well in that game. They battled. They got beat by a better team. The next year, they annihilated Navy in the opener, destroyed Navy in the opener in Ireland. And then the next year, year 3, they went on the road against a very good Texas A&M team, or a good Texas A&M team, and beat them on the road. Now, they weren't always perfect from an execution standpoint, but they played their butts off. This is the only opener, for example, that they've played poorly. Now, there's other, comeback games. You lose to Marshall after the Ohio State game. You lose to Northern Illinois. I don't think that's a September problem. I think that's your team isn't consistently focused. Your team still needs external motivators to get themselves ready to play.
Yeah.
That's an issue. It's not a better or worse issue. It's just a different issue that needs to be addressed. It's not about how do we do a better job in fall camp to get our team ready to play in week 2. I think it's a little different issue than that.
Buy, sell, hold from Freeman Natty. The change in defensive philosophy was the most head-scratching coaching decision Sunday night.
I'll buy that. That's an even bigger head scratcher to me than having Will Black as your third team left guard as opposed to your second team left tackle. That's a head scratcher, but Will Black wasn't starting against Miami no matter what. The biggest head scratcher is this right here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say a very close second is the fact that why did Jadarian Price not touch the football again after having 45 of your 70 total yards on your first scoring drive of the game? That one was pretty up there with me.
Agree.
Bryce hold from Lima Bean Irish. The tight end room is in worse shape than you originally thought.
It would seem so. I mean, the way that they used it, I don't know that we can say that because we didn't get a chance to see any of the tight ends do anything. You were correct, Trev. They only played one snap. I thought it was two, but it was actually Malachi Fields coming down in a wing position. I thought it was Ty Washington, but it was only one snap of the second tight end. We had as many snaps of 10 personnel as we had 12 personnel in that game, which is one.
Yeah.
And they're asking Will Pauling to back block side of a goal line play instead of putting a tight end in the game. No clue why that's happening.
Couldn't tell you. And Bryce hold, despite beating Notre Dame, Miami still loses 2 games this season.
I buy. I mean, so this is a big win for them. There's some things Miami's got to improve upon still. Let's see how they do against Florida in a couple weeks. At Florida State's looking a whole lot different now than it did preseason, Trev. They still have to play at SMU. They still got to play at Syracuse or at Virginia Tech. They still got to play at Pitt, and they still got to play Louisville at home and Florida at home. So of those 6, I think Miami goes 4-2, and I think that borderline gets them in the playoffs. I think this win over Notre Dame was huge for them because now they can be 10-2 and maybe not play for the ACC title or get to the ACC title game and lose and still be in because they can look back and say, hey, man, we beat Notre Dame. We beat this team. So let's just say, Trev, that they lose to SMU on the road, and let's say they lose to Florida State on the road. That makes them 10-2, but they're going to look at it at the end of the year and say, hey, we beat Notre Dame, we beat Florida, we beat Louisville, we beat NC State, we beat Virginia Tech, and we beat Pitt. That to me is a much better 10-2 playoff resume than the 10-2 playoff resume they had last year. Yeah. Or the 10-2 resume they had last year, excuse me.
Yep. From Christopher Crosby, there are a lot of good quarterbacks in the SEC this season. While it is no guarantee that any player will reach their ceiling, Bryce hold Lenore Sellers has the highest ceiling of the SEC quarterbacks.
I would sell that. No, he does. No, I sell that. I was going to say maybe this year, but even then, I think Arch Manning has a higher ceiling than Lenore Sellers. Ultimately, I think that DJ Lagway has a higher ceiling than Arch Manning. Than Lenore Sellers. I would argue that Garrett Nussmeier still has a higher ceiling. He's got the best arm of anybody in the SEC. I still got some questions about his decision making, but he made some. Some of the throws he made against Clemson were just like, oh boy. We talk about throws that CJ Carr made where you're like, nobody can do that. Like that throw he made on the play where they reversed the touchdown. That, by the way, is one of the worst officiating overturns I've ever seen in my life. I still don't know how they overturned that touchdown on the deep ball to Barian Brown. That ball was amazingly well thrown. And no, I think that Lenore Sellers is a good player, but he's become, in my opinion, Trev, too much of like the latest hype machine. And I don't even dislike it. I think he's a good player. He's fun to watch, but like the hype on him is so over the top that it's like, it's hard to like, you have to almost push back on it. And I'm like, I watched the game. He went 12 of 19 for 209 yards and 1 touchdown pass and rushed for 25 yards and a touchdown. His numbers weren't even as good as CJ Carr's. He just didn't throw a turn. And I saw somebody say he's the number 2 Heisman contender. They scored 24 points against Virginia Tech at what are we talking about here? Like I was at the grocery store when that game started, and if you'd have looked at Twitter, you'd have thought Lenore Sellers was destroying Virginia Tech. And I get home and I'm like, it's like 7-2. And it's like they scored on their first drive, and it's like, what are we doing here? So I think he's a good player, but I just think he's the new guy that every time he does something moderately good, we just hype it up like he's the next Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick or Tim Tebow and ignore the fact that he's not those guys. because those guys were monster producers. At least Lamar and Tebow were. And you're talking about a guy is now number 2 on the Heisman list who went 12 of 19 for 209 yards, 25 rushing yards, and accounted for 2 touchdowns in a 24-11 win. Really?
Lenora Sellers right now on FanDuel is number 3 best odds to win the Heisman, only 50 points behind Carson Beck, who is now number 2 to win the Heisman. Garrett Nussmeier is number 1.
Carson Beck wasn't even Miami's best player on offense against Notre Dame. Like, that's why I just that trophy's getting so bad. But no, Lenoris does not have the highest. I'll sell that.
Then another one about the offensive line. Buy, sell, hold. This past weekend's performance by the offensive line was the worst of the Marcus Freeman era.
Was this worse than Duke 2023? I would argue it was.
Yeah.
It's one of those two.
I would say this one is worse. Because here's the issue. The Duke game, this kind of goes down to, I guess, how you're going to evaluate it. The Duke game, it just looked like they didn't want to be there. Like, so there was just a pure lack of effort. This game against Miami, you were just flat out doing stuff wrong. There was never a question of effort. It's just your effort was just going in the wrong direction. I mean, it was like a hot mess. That's what I'm saying. So it depends on, like, I guess what you evaluated on. Like, from an effort standpoint, it's Duke. From a technical standpoint, it was Miami kind of by a lot.
But when the game was on the line against Duke in 2023, the offensive line stepped up and made plays and blocked for their guys. They gave Sam Hartman time to throw. Once that drive got going, they obviously kept guys off of Audric and let him have the game-winning touchdown run. So at least they stepped up when it mattered most, where this offensive line, when it mattered most, folded. Absolutely folded.
Yep.
It was embarrassing.
So then I guess buy. It'd be a buy for me then, Chris.
Yeah, and Marshall 2022, the offensive line was not anywhere close to being as bad as this was.
No. Buy, sell, hold. Jeremiah Love will get no less than 18 carries versus Texas A&M.
Sell. I think he'll get less than 18 because I do think he's going to pop a couple. I see him being 15 to 17, and he breaks a couple big ones.
And then buy, sell, hold. I know it's only game 1, but buy, sell, hold. Matt Patricia answered a lot of questions about him against Texas. I thought he called a brilliant game.
I'm going to sell that. I don't think I don't think one performance does that. He called a brilliant game, but I love what Kyle Vanoy said. He said he called the basically same game that we used against Sark back in 16 and 17. All right, cool. You have the game plan down for Sark. What about the rest of the teams on your schedule? I think it was a great first step. First step, but let's see what he does moving forward.
Yeah.
Because, like, I could go back to, remember when Notre Dame shut out Michigan in 2020 or 2014 and Brian Van Gorder's second game, and everybody thought, oh, this is the answer. They shut down Rice in week 1, and was it Rice or Nevada? I forget who it was. No, it was Rice. Dominated Rice in week 1, shut out Michigan. Oh, the defense looks so good. You know, Brian, you were wrong. Van Gorder's the man. I literally had people telling me that. You were wrong about him. When are you going to apologize? Literally comments that people made to me in 2014 after the first couple games under Brian Van Gorder. And I just sat back and said, okay, we'll see. We'll see. Right. Held Purdue to 14, held Syracuse to 14, held Stanford to set 14. And then in the next several bit of games, gave up 43, 31, 39, 55. And fairness, 34 that game because they gave up 3 defensive touchdowns. 43, 31, 49, and 28. So one game does not define that. Was it a good first step? Absolutely. But I could point to a lot of examples of guys looking great in their first game without film on them, and then they fall apart. Do I think Matt Patricia is going to be Brian Van Gorder? No, I don't think anybody's that bad. But I just want to see it over the course of a little bit more time.
Yeah. Chris Ash should take note of what Matt Patricia did last Saturday. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
I mean, to a degree. Sure. I'll buy that.
Sure. Buy, sell, hold from MT Irish. This team believes so much in itself and its destiny that they forgot Miami and the rest of the competition. Didn't buy into their destiny.
I'll buy that. I think there was a little bit of, we're just going to kind of go out here and roll the balls out, and we're going to beat this team. I think there was a little bit of that to how they came out in that game, Trev. What do you think? I think so.
Yeah, which is to be honest with you, why do I think that it happened? Sure, but I'm a hope sell it because I hope not. Because Marcus Freeman was able to hang his hat on, we'll stay focused and be locked in for the big games. We just might overlook a Northern Illinois or a Marshall. If you start overlooking top 10 opponents on the road because your eyes are set on something bigger, don't know what to tell you. So I'm going to hope sell it, but do I think that it happened? Yeah. Another one from MT Irish. The coaches built the quarterback competition up to be more than it was to help build the reputation of the loser, giving them more opportunities, assuming they would transfer at the end of the season.
So, no, we're putting way too much into this. It was the quarterback competition was legitimate. They gave Kenny Minchie every chance to win it. They gave CJ every chance to win it, and ultimately picked the right guy. I think the competition was, the coaches didn't build the quarterback competition. We did in the media. And that's our job. We barely get to talk to the coaches about the quarterback competition. We saw Marcus Freeman the first day of fall camp, and then we didn't talk to him again till what? End of camp? After the Jersey scrimmage, I should say. When else did we get a chance to talk to him? So I don't think that's necessarily accurate of how it went. Now, could the result end up helping the loser? Sure. But I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Another one from MT Irish. While Jeremiah Love is more dynamic and better all around, Jadarian Price is the better contested space runner, has run better against the best competition, and is the better running back for the current offensive line if they don't improve.
I strongly disagree with that. They both ran great against A&M last year. Jeremiah Love was more efficient. If anything, I would say I'd flip it. I'd say Jadarian's more dynamic of a runner. Jeremiah's the better contested space runner, meaning he does better in tight quarters is kind of how I'm taking that. I think they both had their good moments and bad moments against good competition.
Mm-hmm.
They both ran great against A&M. Jadarian ran better against Georgia Tech. They both ran great against USC. Jeremiah ran better against Indiana. Neither of them ran very well in the next 3 games. But I would argue that Jadarian ran better against Texas. Jeremiah ran better against Penn State. Neither of them did anything against Ohio State, nor were they given the opportunity to do anything against Ohio State. So, look, if Jeremiah Love would have ran mid-zone on a play that was blocked as well as the one that Jadarian got it on, he would have probably done the same exact thing. This isn't a either-or debate. This is a both-and conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They're both dynamic all-around runners. They're both good in contested spots. They're both good in big moments when the offensive line does its job. And they're both going to be able to handle the line not playing well. Sell.
Agreed.
Sell. Get here. Come on. All right. There we go. Okay. No, that's the same one from before. It's stuck. Give me a second.
No worries.
It's just so weird how to just randomly do that. Just what makes it decide that? Okay, here we go.
Buy, sell, hold from MT Irish. It sucks losing to Miami. Agreed. But if they were going to lose one, this was the best game for them to lose. And ultimately, it'd be easier to be a 5 seed than a 4 seed. Play an easier warm-up game at home rather than an additional week off before playing a stronger opponent.
For a playoff resume, I buy that this is the best game to lose because I do think Miami is going to be a top 25 team. It was a road game. It was the opener. Look, by the end of the year, the committee did not care one bit about Northern Illinois outside of that's what determined whether they're going to be right in front of Penn State or right behind Penn State. That they were a home team. They were the 5 seed. I've said before, I would much rather Notre Dame be the 5 seed than the 4 seed. So I buy that as well. I buy the premise of I would rather them play in the first round in a 12-team playoff than get a bye and not have to play for over a month against a team that recently played, and in some cases a team that's played twice since you last played. I think all those things are positive. So what I like about the submission, Trevor, he's not saying it's good that they lost to Miami. He's basically saying it sucks to lose any game, but if you're going to lose a game, this would be the best game for them to lose. I buy that with one exception, and that is the timing of the early loss also then puts a lot more pressure on you the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But we saw that last year. So if they bounce back and beat A&M, they're going to be fine. Like, they will be. Doesn't mean they're going to win the rest of their games. It just means they're not going to, like, fall apart and go, like, 8-4.
Agreed.
But it does put a lot of pressure on them during this bye week of now you're in we got to win mode. We gotta get it done. But just from a resume building standpoint for the playoff, which is where I think he's coming from with this, I absolutely buy this, that this would be a good game to lose in this instance, as long as you handle business the rest of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I definitely going to have to win out in my eyes. Could you make it at 10-2? Potentially, depending on what happens around you. But if Notre Dame's 10-2, it is completely out of their destiny. Right now, everything is still in front of them. If you go 11-1, you're just in the playoffs. We can have questions of, are they going to be a 4 seed, 5 seed? It depends on what happens. But I'm hesitant to say an easier warm-up game because the sample size of the 12-team playoff is so small that I said this going into the season. I don't know if we're going to see a year again where all 4 of the teams who receive byes are all going to lose. I don't know if Notre Dame is going to host in Indiana again. They might, maybe, or they could host LSU, or they could host
that.
It'd be fun,
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would coin that as easy. That's my point. Like,
oh God, yeah.
So
yeah, he said easier warm up game. Like if LSU's the 12 seed, they've probably got 3 losses.
Sure.
Like I get your point.
So
would you say that game is still going to be easier than whoever you play in the quarters in the current system? Like last year, that didn't mean that. You could have played like a Bama or an Ole Miss or South Carolina. That might have been a tougher matchup for you had you drawn Boise in round 2 or Arizona State in round 2. Absolutely, that could be the case where your 12 seed or 11 seed matchup is tougher than your 3 or 4 seed matchup.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case in the current setting, though.
No.
I think your quarterfinal game is going to be like, and then if you get a bye, if you're the 4 seed and you get a bye, you're going to play the legit 5 seed, not, you know what I mean? Like not somebody, it's just, yeah. I get what you're saying, Trev, and I get the submission as well. I do
absolutely.
think that not being I do like the idea of Notre Dame not hosting or not getting a bye. Excuse me. I don't love the idea of them getting a bye. Just as a football coach, I'm telling you, man, it is a challenge to prepare when you haven't played in over a month, and the team that you're playing is in game shape, in game
I get that
mode. And especially if you get a team that's played twice. So let's say LSU goes and plays in the SEC title game and gets beat. All right, so they play after your last game. And then LSU gets let's say they get the 11 seed and they upset number 6. And then now you got to play LSU because the LSU is the one that people were mentioned. Now all of a sudden they've played now 2 games since the last time you've played. They're in a very different headspace and body space than you are. You say, well, won't they be more fatigued? Yeah, kind of. But I think that's negated by the fact that they're in mid-season form, so to speak, where you're going to have to shake off some rust on a neutral field early in that game. I'd rather shake off the rust against a 12 seed who hasn't played since you've played.
Sure.
Last played. That's my thing. Just from a coaching standpoint, that concerns me.
Oh, I get that. But, look, at the end of the day, big picture, I get where you're coming from. I just think that there's a lot of moving pieces that go into I'd rather be the 5 seed than the 4 seed. Because big picture to what you're talking about, I agree completely. I also don't know what the health of the Notre Dame football team is going to be in
Sure.
14 weeks.
Sure.
You know, I don't know who that potential 12 seed is going to be. Maybe the 12 seed in that scenario could be something like a 2016 USC team, where it's just like they didn't handle business early in the season. Now they're hot as ever. They just don't have the resume to be ranked higher. So do I expect that to happen? No, but could it? Maybe. So
because that year LSU got up to 9, or USC got all the way up to 9. It's like if they're that hot, are they 12? There's always a lot of those things for sure. I just would much rather play in the first round.
Sure.
All things being equal, I'd much rather play in the first round.
From VCU Irish, Notre Dame's current offensive line has the talent to protect its quarterback against elite pass rushes, but its biggest issue is cohesion and communication.
Depends on what you mean by current offensive line. If you mean current offensive line in regard to the 5 starters they have, I disagree with that. I have said all along, I hope that I'm wrong, but I've always been concerned about Anthony Knapp's ability to play as a tackle. I bought into the since we weren't able to see them, I bought into the people telling me, oh, he's gotten better, he's improved, blah, 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 blah. But Trev, you and I talked about this off the air a couple times. Like, I'm hearing a lot of things about how good the D-line looks, and that kind of concerns me a little bit because I don't think they're bragging about how good they look against the number 2s. I keep telling them how Boubacar's unguardable. By who? Who can't block him? I had those concerns, but I just don't think Anthony Knapp is a tackle. I think he's a very talented player. He's not a tackle. They're putting him in a bad spot. They're hurting his game, his reputation by continue to put him out there. If you mean talent as in the entire offensive line roster, absolutely buy this. But it's kind of a bad look for the O-line coach when you've got 4 returning starters who are playing with poor communication and cohesion. That wasn't an issue for Miami.
Well, and I'll take it a step further. I don't think that their biggest issue is cohesion or communication. I think it's fundamentals. They are clearly being taught to do the wrong things, or at least they're being taught to
communication.
Do things.
You're being communicated poor technique.
yeah, that's a good point.
Technically, that's communication.
Technically, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. But
sorry, couldn't help myself.
No, you're good. That's funny. But I think cohesion and communication can be an issue. Yeah, potentially. But I go back and I look at the film and the things that they're being set up to do. When your redshirt junior right tackle's second step in pass protection makes you look like this.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with
makes
cohesion.
You look like you're doing calisthenics out of your stance. That's a problem.
And then 3 steps later, Ruben Bain hits you with a chop that makes you do a 180, and then you end up trying to box him out like Dennis Rodman down in the paint in the 90s with less effectiveness. That has nothing to do with cohesion.
Because he still had no base.
Mm-hmm.
They're communicating the wrong guys into the wrong positions. How about that, Trev?
There we go.
That's communication. You're communicating for you to go to left tackle and you to go to right tackle when they should communicating somebody else to go to left tackle and somebody else to go to right tackle. That's communication, Trev. Come on, man. It's communication.
That's true, here, man. I got to stop looking at the surface level, baby.
Get on the stick,
looking at
man.
The surface level.
Got to go deeper, baby. This is Irish Breakdown. Not Irish barbershop talk. Irish Breakdown, baby. We dive deep. Come on, man. Jeez.
I know it.
Oh, my goodness. They're communicating the wrong guys to be on the field. That's also communication. Oh, my goodness.
Another one from VCU Irish. By so hold, the single biggest step for the defense is generating interior pressure. If the tackles can collapse the pocket, the edge and secondary will look significantly better without major scheme changes.
Sell. Again, you're not going to collapse the pocket as quickly as they need to collapse the pockets the way that Miami is getting the ball out as quickly as they were a lot of the time. The biggest single step is to be more aggressive with your coverage structure, which then gives your linemen more of chances to get to the quarterback. That's what I think.
Yeah, we see that the same. VCU Irish, Notre Dame's run game struggles aren't about play calling variety, but about winning one-on-one battles at the point of attack.
And then just blocking the right guys. Yeah. I mean, look, the run game, I said this in our breakdown, Trev. I wasn't as upset about the run game after breaking down the film as I was before. They weren't great, and the goal line stuff was puzzling, but the two biggest misses at the goal line were by wide receivers lining up on the edge. Malachi got beat off the edge once, and Will Pauling got beat off the edge once. You know, you only ran the ball 22 times, and what was it? Only, oh gosh, because what was your total number of carries between Jeremiah and, actually, if I pull that up, it's gonna give me a second. Let's go here. Let's go Notre Dame. I was getting ready to pull up the report.
It's 16.
So you had 16 between those two. You had 78 yards rushing on 16 carries. You didn't get a lot of chances to pop one. One play where Jeremiah is about to go off. He doesn't get the handoff. You're pulling when you shouldn't be pulling. You should have been handing off in certain situations. Like, the run game wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I think there are some – here's the red flags I had. Lack of consistency, lack of diversity of your RPO game, and some concerning footwork adjustments by the running backs coach that are causing the running backs to get downhill way too quick. Those are more concerns for me than play calling variety. And then, you know, when you're 3rd and 1 and nobody blocks the nose tackle, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it definitely makes it tough to have an effective run game, that's for sure.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
Iden Benami, Joe Rudolph is in the minority among fans and Notre Dame media. They all say, for the most part, they prefer him inside, on Knapp playing left tackle.
I don't know what other people think about it. I know what I think about it, and I've been saying this since they signed him. So I don't really care what other media people say about pretty much anything, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just I focus on myself. I worry about myself. There's a lot of people on the beat that I respect, but I don't read their stuff, and I doubt they read mine, or at least they shouldn't. Come up with your own thoughts and conclusions and things along those lines. But I don't think that Joe Rudolph's decision should be made on what media and fans say. Because I think media and fans, if what you're saying is true, are correct on this one. But there's been a lot of things that media and fans thought that teams should do certain things, and they were wrong, because that's why they're fans and media for the most part. But in this case, I do think they're right. But Joe Rudolph is certainly not on the same page with a lot of people. But where have those calls been? I mean, I'm hearing people saying that people are now saying that now, but guys, this was evident all of last year. I don't know why this is a surprise to anyone.
Buy, sell, hold. I asked this early in the spring, and IB wasn't too concerned. We should have gotten another cornerback in the portal.
Still sell. Like, what about cornerback on Sunday night is like, well, a portal guy would have done what? Played over Christian Gray? There was nobody in the portal that was going to start over Christian Gray. Over Leonard Moore. Leonard Moore was your worst cornerback on starting corner on Sunday night. He played worse overall than Christian Gray did.
Yeah. Here's the fix to what I'm assuming you're talking about, Iden. Have Devontae Smith play more than 36 snaps of the 70 plays on defense.
Portal guy.
Yeah. They don't need another portal player. They need the portal player they got to play more snaps.
And I don't know that there's anyone in the portal that I'm going to want and trust more than Mark Zachary or Dallas Golden.
Agreed.
And who is that? What portal guy that is better, a more talented player than those two guys, or let's say prepared to play better, is coming to Notre Dame knowing he's not starting at corner? They're not going to do it. So no, I'm not worried about having to play freshmen for a team who has basically had 3 straight years of freshman All-American corners. And I say that about Christian Gray because his only reason he wasn't is because he didn't get play enough. But when he did play, he was great. You had a freshman All-American 2 of the last 3 years. I'm not worried about playing freshman at corner. If I had to play a bunch of freshmen at D end and D tackle, O line, tight end, then I'd be a little bit more concerned. Linebacker, I'd be more concerned. Big boy positions. I'm not worried about that with skill positions. Coach the guys you have. Get Dallas Golden ready. Get Mark Zachary ready. That's what I care about. I don't need another portal guy to come be a backup. You got a portal guy for a position you needed a portal guy at nickel, and that's the same concern I have now. I don't understand why a fan base that has seen what Mike Mickens has done at corner the last couple of years feels the need to talk about, needing a more portal corners. I don't think it's wrong. Like, Trev, if you wanted to say, hey, man, I think they should got a veteran guy just in case. I'm like, all right, I get that. But that guy wasn't going to play on Sunday night. That guy was there as a just in case. And I think you might even mention this in the show. Maybe it's Vince. But when Gray went out and they brought in Mark Zachary, I mean, you get a little nervous when you see a true freshman. I get that. But some people focus on what happened with Jaden Mickey. I focus on what happened with Benjamin Morrison, Christian Gray, and Leonard Moore. Since then, Jaden Mickey wasn't as good as those guys. He's not even starting at Boise State.
Yep.
So and Carson Hobbs is your backup. You're gonna get a nickel portal guy that is okay being the backup to Devontae Smith. Oh, this is Carson Hobbs' first game. Let him work it out. See how he does.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't think the portal was the answer then. I don't think it's the answer now. I think it's play better. You have talented players. Play better.
Another one from Iden. Carson Hobbs will be put in the corner if he keeps getting ran around the field the way he did.
Sure, if he keeps playing the way he did, he'll eventually lose a spot. But it was the first meaningful game, so let's give him a chance to improve before we already write his career epithet at Notre Dame, right? Like, let's just give him more in the game.
After seeing all those quarterback runs, Kenny Minchie will play meaningful minutes this season.
No idea. I'm going to hope sell it because I don't know that he will, but I'm I don't want CJ Carr to get hurt. I think where I take this comment from Iden is seeing all those QB runs. I don't think CJ lasts, and therefore we will see more Kenny. We will see Kenny Minchie play meaningful downs. That's how I see him. That question. And in that case, I'm going to hope sell that one.
Fair. By so hold, Coach Freeman will sit down with Coach Ash and tell him to fix it and quick.
I hope by that one. I don't know that that's something that Marcus Freeman will do, but I hope he does. He needs to. Do you need to really see more than one game of that before you're like, hey, man? No.
Well, and hopefully it doesn't come to the point where Freeman has to sit him down and say, you need to fix it. If you're going to talk about how you don't have the Coach Ash defense, this is the Notre Dame defense, and you need to know that that's not up to the standard, whether it's your first game or not. So hopefully you don't have to sit him down to have that conversation. It just gets fixed. From Misguided Passion by So Hold, based on the on-field performance during the Freeman era, Notre Dame is a line-driven team.
Sell.
Yeah.
The next great offensive line that Marcus Freeman has will be the first great offensive line that Marcus Freeman has in Notre Dame. He's had a great offensive lineman, but he's never had – this is year 4, and barring a dramatic change from week 1, which is possible, he won't have a great offensive line this year either. Defensive line has been up and down. So, no, they are a line-driven team in name and scheme only.
Mm-hmm.
Not in performance.
Yep. Agreed.
They have the talent to do that.
I was just about to say what makes that even more frustrating is they're recruiting like line-driven teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then more specifically along the offensive line, they just get put in spots to not be a line-driven team, which is really tough. Yep. From T-Shop 11, buy, sell, hold, the performances of these week 1 quarterbacks. Buy one, sell one, hold one, Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, CJ Carr.
Oh, boy. I'm going to buy CJ Carr. I'm going to hold Cade Klubnik, and I'm going to sell Arch Manning based on the opening weekend. Just the performance of the opening weekend, not big picture or long-term, just performance of the opening weekend. Those are my three. CJ Carr accounted for more touchdowns than those guys. He accounted for more yards than those guys, total yards than those guys, I believe. So, yeah, I'll buy. And he made more clutch plays in meaningful minutes than those guys did. So I'm going
to buy CJ Carr, hold Arch Manning, sell Cade Klubnik. Because out of those three, Cade, you were the only one that started at home, and you have by far the most experience. And you arguably had the most proven receiving core. So,
to a degree, once Antonio Williams got knocked out, that wasn't necessarily as accurate. Then they were both playing with a lot of young guys at that point in time. But I will say, like, the other parts I definitely agree with. I just think Arch was really bad. That's my only reason I say that. Arch, I mean, all your circumstances, I completely accept everything you said. I will just say, but I still think the difference in performance was pretty significant. I mean, he had some bad drops in that game too by his receivers.
Sure.
He also had some bad misses in that game as well that you don't expect of a senior, which is why I take CJ over him. I think Arch was bad. I mean, Arch got most of his yards at the end of the game. I mean, he was under 100 yards for a good chunk of that game. And it's not like he did anything as a runner either. I mean, like, he was, 10 carries for 38 yards. Chunk of that came late as well. I mean, a lot of his yards came late. He was not very good. And he had some really bad misses, like open guys, just bad misses. So, yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I
just of them played great in the opener.
Agreed.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Trev. I accept everything that you said. The only reason I'm just explaining why I went separately. So I'm not saying, like, you're not wrong in what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying about the expectations of standard. I'm simply saying, but the reason I went the opposite direction is, even though I agree with all that, is I still think the performance was significantly more effective by Cade.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. But it should have been even more so based on the things that you talked about. Don't disagree with that at all. I was just explaining why.
I get you.
Even though I agree with that, I went a different direction.
So. I get you. Then same thing with the quarterback winners of this weekend. Carson Beck, Julian saying Garrett Nussmeier, buy, sell, hold.
I think this one's easier than the other one. I think that's Garrett Nussmeier easily.
Yeah.
Like, none of them put up great numbers, but I thought Garrett Nussmeier was by far the best of all six of the quarterbacks mentioned. He made some absolute just dime throws in that game, handled the pressure really well, didn't have the big mistake that he's prone to when he was getting pressured. He took a sack, threw a couple away, didn't force those bad balls. He had one that didn't get picked, and that's really it. I thought he was, of the six, the best quarterback. I'll buy him. I'll hold Carson Beck. Carson Beck was good against Notre Dame. He wasn't great against Notre Dame. He was throwing to open guys on short throws and had some bad misses down the field and should have got picked on one of his touchdowns. And he was good. He wasn't great. And Julian saying they didn't ask him to do a whole lot. And even the one big throw he had was a kind of a bad ball. Just a great catch by Carnell.
Oh, that touchdown to Carnell Tate.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, that was underthrown by 2-3 yards.
Yeah. And it wasn't intentionally underthrown, in my opinion. But Kate, I mean, Julian did what they asked him to do. They didn't ask him to carry the team in that opener. I'm not taking a shot on Julian saying he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, and he did what they asked him to do. They needed him to make 2 plays in that game, and he made both plays. I can't remember, there was another one. It was like a 3rd down, and he completed the ball, and it was and then he threw the touch. That's all they asked him to do. That's all they asked him to do. So Carson Beck was just kind of okay in that game.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple nice throws. The rest of it was it was more the receivers in the scheme. It wasn't him making a bunch of plays.
Yeah.
He went 4 of 10 on balls past 10 yards. That's it. So Nussmeier, I thought, played really well in that game.
Same order from my side. Buy, sell, hold from Decided Schematic Advantage. Ooh. The following top-ranked Michigan high school quarterback college careers and pro careers could be separate buy, sell, holds. If you have a different view, of how their college versus pro careers will go. Dante Moore, CJ Carr, Bryce Underwood.
I don't really have a thought on their pro careers. That's such a different animal than college. I'll buy CJ Carr, hold Bryce Underwood, and sell Dante Moore. I think if you take Bryce Underwood, you're totally fine. I think Bryce has got the most physical talent of the three. There's some things I want to see from him moving forward. Dante is a gifted thrower. I don't love his frame. I question his decision-making, and I question his maturity compared to the other two. But I think they're all going to be good college quarterbacks. But that's my order of the three. And I think you can't go wrong with any of the three, but I do think that right now, based on how their careers have gone, I think there's a separation between CJ and Bryce, just from a tools standpoint compared to Dante. And tools, in my opinion, also refers to your ability to read defenses and process and lead, and your character and those type of things are all part of it for a quarterback.
Yeah, this one's tough. I'm also not touching pro careers because, like you said, it really just depends on who you get drafted to, if we're being honest. But I mean, as far as college goes, I'll probably buy CJ Carr, hold Dante Moore, and sell Bryce Underwood for now. He's an exceptional talent, but the next time Michigan in my lifetime, the next time Michigan has a legitimate passer under center will be the first in my lifetime. I mean, I guess if you want to count Chad Henne as a legitimate passer.
Well, they did have Tom Brady in your lifetime. You were crawling and stuff like that, but still your lifetime.
You're getting me on technicalities today, man.
Hey, you said right. Lifetime, bro.
You're right. My apologies. When I was 13 months old, Michigan had a very legitimate passer.
He played till 99. You were crawling around and blabbering, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that's true.
But no, I know what you mean. Lifetime is more of since you've been following the sport. I've just had to give you a hard time. But
that's all right.
Yeah, I'd say Chad Henne was legit. But again, that's 20 years ago, dude. Chad Henne was the quarterback in the game back in 2006, which was one of the best Ohio State-Michigan games ever, by the way. Do you remember that game? Were you old enough to remember that game? You're
I
9?
I remember that game.
That was a phenomenal game.
That game was fun.
Yeah, but since him, no, I mean, I thought Devin Gardner had potential, but he just never took that next step. Denard was a runner. Tate Forcier was poo. That's my word of the day. No, you're right. Shea Patterson was vastly overrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what separated it for me. Whereas in college alone, Oregon's put together a bunch of really good college quarterbacks in the same amount of time as so.
If you want to watch, I'm going to look up the box score now. If you want to watch a great bowl game, Trevor, with Michigan, and I'm thinking it was 2000. One of my favorite bowl games ever, and I've talked about this before, was it was the 2000 Orange Bowl. It was the 99 season. Michigan beat Alabama 35-34. Tom Brady went 34 of 46 for 369 yards in that game. And Bama had Sean Alexander ran for 161 yards in that game. It was a fun and Bama scored to tie. They missed the extra point. That's how they lost the game.
Oh,
it was a great bowl game. And Tom Brady's amazing. Tom Brady's actually a very good college quarterback. They just kept trying to push Drew Henson and never let Tom Brady be the guy. But he had some great games when they actually trusted in him. And that was one of those games where they let him be the guy. And he was phenomenal. His receiver in that game with David Terrell was really good. That was one of my favorite bowl games ever. That was a great bowl game.
You said that was 2000
bowl game. Yeah, it was the end of the 99 season, but it was the 2000 Orange Bowl, Michigan, Alabama. Great bowl.
I'll check it out.
That was Tom Brady in peak form in college. We just didn't get to see it as much because they had this stud, Drew Henson, who was a big-time recruit, 5-star guy. He was like the next John Elway because he was drafted by the Yankees out of high school also. And Michigan kept trying to push him and never fully committed to Tom. But Tom, it's they would start Drew. They would start Tom. He'd lead them on a touchdown. They'd bring Drew in. The offense would start sputtering, and then they'd just do this back and forth. It was ridiculous. But yeah, that was a great game between Tom Brady and Sean Alexander. It was an awesome game.
From Ben Hurt 10, Riley Leonard's running ability masked a major problem with the offensive line that was already there. It was just exposed Sunday night.
Ben, my man, I agree. I buy that. Certainly. We've talked about this before. Trev, we had a question similar to this early in the thing. I do think that his running and scrambling ability definitely masked certain things from the offensive line last year. There's no question. And you're going to have to figure those out real quick. But you've known this. We knew this. We knew this. We've been talking about this all offseason. The Notre Dame coaches should have known this and addressed it. And at least for one game, they haven't. It doesn't mean that they won't. It just means for one game, they haven't. As I've said before, guys, this game was not as bad as Ohio State losing to Virginia Tech by 2 touchdowns at home in the second game of the 2014 season. Ohio State players did not let that game define them. They improved, and by the end of the year, they were the best team in college football. Went out and beat Michigan in a game in the end of that year, won the Big Ten, beat Alabama in the college football playoff, beat Oregon in the national title game, Marcus Mariota, Heisman Trophy winner, won the national championship. It's about how you respond. But if they don't fix this, Ben, in a hurry, meaning like by the next game, and I don't even mean fix it, but improve it a ton, then yeah, you could get beat again by Texas A&M.
Yep.
It's huge.
Got to get fixed.
Absolutely huge. And as we said, it's not going to get completely fixed in game 2, most likely, but it's got to definitely be improved a ton. And it can, but will it? That's a great question. This is the last one, Trev, and then we do have 6 super chats that we'll get to after this as well. So this is the last of the submitted members' questions.
Buy so hold from Josh CSP77. Notre Dame won't lose any more games. Makes the playoff as a 5 to 8 seed and a possible rematch against Miami.
I'll hope by this one because, again, Notre Dame losing to Miami without any context of how they lost doesn't change my prediction at all. I predict them to go 11-1. So it doesn't change my prediction at all. It changes Trevor's record prediction, but it doesn't change Trevor's ranking prediction or playoff prediction one bit. Your future, your destiny is still in a 12-team playoff. Here's the big difference about now versus a few years ago. In a 12-team playoff, your destiny at with one loss is 100% if you're a Power 4 team in your own hands. You go 11-1, you're a playoff team. Just it is. That's the case. If you could go 11-1 and your loss being to Northern Illinois and your best win of the season was over an unranked A&M team or a ranked Navy and Army team, and you're not only a playoff team, but you're hosting, you're getting in at 11-1 with a 3-point road loss at Miami.
Yep.
Flat out getting in. Now, the question is, will they do that, Josh? And that's the thing that we need to find out. And I'll make a bit of a bold prediction, Trevor. If Notre Dame beats Texas A&M and looks good doing so, they won't lose another game. And we'll look back at this Miami game and be like, this is the game that sparked them to go play, all that crap that I'm tired. I wish they would just not need that to get going, but whatever. Hey, can we just say you're 0-1? Can you guys play an inter squad scrimmage and then just say you lost it so that way you can, whatever. But if they beat A&M and look good, they could beat A&M and kind of still look kind of like the same team, but they just make enough plays to win it at the end, then I'm going to be very nervous. The offensive line doesn't play well. The D-line doesn't play great. But in this instance, they make a play here. They make a stop there on just one or two things goes different. They win this game by field goal. I'm not going to come out of that game feeling super great that they're going to also beat Arkansas and also beat USC and also beat NC State and also beat Pitt and also, you know what I mean? I'll feel like, boo, there's another potential stub, toe stubbing coming up here in the future. But if they go out there and beat A&M and look good doing it, then I'm like, all right, this is the team we thought it was going to be, and that was their wake-up moment. They'll be okay. That's what I think's on the line against A&M.
Absolutely,
what say you, Trev?
Well, and that's the bright side about this being A&M. I know we talked about it in a negative light coming out of the post-game show, but this is the positive light of their next opponent not being a Purdue. Yeah, you can go and beat a bad Purdue team 66-7, but we were left with a lot of question marks even after that win. It was, they look good today, but They ran the ball really well today, but can they do it against Louisville? Can they do it against USC? Can they do it against, but if they're able to do it against Texas A&M, to your point, and look good doing it, I will have a lot more confidence in this group to say, yeah, I'm not as worried that anymore about on the road against Arkansas or home against NC State or home against USC or on the road against Pitt. So that's the bright side, but it's if they look good doing it. But if if the game looks like how it did, it's if it looks like a Miami of Ohio thing, where it's just like, God, I know they won, but I don't feel great about it. There's going to be a lot of questions moving forward, and it's going to be evaluate week over week. It'll be a 7-day evaluation period every single time we talk about this team. And that's not where I want to be. So, ideally, they come out against Texas A&M and they run the table and look good doing it. So I'm with you.
All right, so that is going to do it for the submissions submitted by our members. Now we will slide over to the Super Chats, Trev. We do have 6 Super Chats that we'll get to here, and then we'll wrap up.
Jack M with the Super Chat. Appreciate you, Jack. The quarterback battle created bad vibes, i.e. the 2016 team.
So I don't think the quarterback battle had anything to do with the offensive line playing like absolute horse pucky. I don't think it had anything to do with it. I don't. I think that's on the O-line.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. $1 million question of the day, and I'm saying this somewhat satirically. And Jack, this isn't an inflection of you. I am curious of how many more questions we are going to get about the quarterback battle as the season progresses.
I mean, look, I get it. I do get it. You come out, you don't look great. Yeah, CJ played well, but did the battle divide the team? Because there was a lot of people out there trying to push that narrative and push that agenda.
Sure.
And I get it. And there's just some people that believe everything they see on social media. I'm not talking about Jack, but just in general. I get tweets like, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, yeah, that's a fake account, right? Like somebody put on the board and the guy that did it, respect him. I get it. Not everybody has all day to look things up. But he put a thing out there about Dylan Edwards putting a thing out about how he's entering the portal and had things and it was a fake account. Somebody sent me a thing about Mario Cristobal coaching from the box. I was like, bro, that's a fake account. There's a lot of things that people put out on social media. And I saw someone today, showed a play from the game and this guy's about to be open. No, he's not. It's not how football works. He wasn't about to be open. It's just, there's a lot out there. And I just think that people are pushing narratives instead of the truth. And I don't think the quarterback battle is any reason why the O-line or defense played poor football on Sunday night. I think those are issues that have to do with those positions and those units.
From Elmer Layden with the Super Chat. Thank you very much. If Chris Ash turns out to be the second coming of Van Gorder, Notre Dame defensive players revert back to play the style of ball they learned under Golden.
Sell, because you can't play a style if your coach doesn't call it. You have to do what your coach tells you to do. I mean, you're not going to have a mutiny where they say, we're making our own calls. Then who's your coordinator? Drake Bowen? You got to call what's called, and you should. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So if he turns out to be the second coming of Brian Van Gorder, then this defense is going to struggle because these players are respectful players. And they're going to do what their coaches tell them to do. And we'll have a lot of bad things to say about Marcus Freeman for allowing that to happen. I don't think that's going to be the case. As frustrated as I was Sunday night, that was not a Brian Van Gorder quality game or anything in the same universe as a Van Gorder caliber game.
From ND Milton fan, buy, sell, hold. Thank you for the super chat. Buy, sell, hold. Brian Kelly's comments to Dabo were garbage.
I have no idea what Brian Kelly said to Dabo. What?
So it was in Dabo Sweeney's Monday or Tuesday press conference, whenever they started their week, he talked about how, he was asked about the Clemson LSU game, and he was like, it's kind of like the first day of class, and we graded out at a 56, and they graded out at like a 68, and that's just how it goes. And then Brian Kelly's comments were, you either have a very lenient grading scale, or you were grading us too harshly, or giving yourself too good of a curve, because we dominated in the second half. So I don't know who was doing the grading, but it was to that effect.
Brian Kelly showing a lack of class? No way. Whatever, dude. He's a clown.
I filed it under to your point that you brought up before about his like comments about Death Valley. I think he was just trying to be funny, and he's just not funny.
You know what I also chalk it up to? There's the expression, act like you've been here before, to which Brian Kelly would say, well, I've never had a big win like this before on the road, so I don't know how to act. Fair, Brian. Fair.
Akshat Shakar, thank you for the super chat. Buy, sell, hold. Bryce Young needs to be getting pass rush reps instead of starter reps because of Burnham's solid edge setting.
Depends on the opponent. Look, Bryce Young's going to play a lot. Josh, the split between him and Burnham should be more 50-50 than anything else. And I think the Notre Dame coaching staff, when it comes to Bryce Young, made a decision to start him and play him that much based on his potential, not necessarily based on his productivity or consistency. And I get it to a degree, but look, I've been warning all offseason, guys, let's not put too much on Bryce in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a bit raw. He still has a lot to learn. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on him being a star right away. Ease him into it during the season. Let Josh be the starter, and then ease Bryce into it. And then as Bryce starts to play to that level we hope for, then you ramp it up more. I just think they put a lot of pressure on him to be that guy right away unnecessarily when you have some really good veteran players like Josh Burnham, who was really good against the run, and a guy like Junior Chilamaka. That's an issue I have. You say, well, you're playing right and left now, so, you need them both. Okay, then maybe that was a mistake. Maybe you've handcuffed yourself into certain situations because you can't have a more stout run defender in the spot because you've now gone right left as opposed to field boundary. Okay, maybe you consider adjusting that a little bit.
Super chat from Josh Stansberry. Thank you, Josh. The tackle situation has to be maddening to Marcus Freeman. Do you agree?
Now, I'm going to have to sell this, Josh, because if it was maddening to him, why would he continue to allow it to happen? We'll find out how maddening it is here over the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because if nothing changes, then it wasn't that maddening. It should be, Josh. Josh, you are correct, and he should be frustrated by that. But all I know is after the game, the head coach said he thought the offensive line played well. I said it twice. Now, I get the whole we need to watch the film and do all that. Oh, okay, fine, but you don't need to watch film to know that was not a well performance.
No.
Well, he doesn't want to throw his team in the bus. That's cool. Hey, listen, obviously nobody played well enough to win. Our kids played hard. I'm going to have to go back in the film room and see how they did, blah, 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 blah. But end of the day, all that really matters is we didn't do enough to win the football game. And you can defend your players and not throw them under the bus without then saying twice that they played well.
Yeah.
Because you could say, yeah, there's a lot you could say, but as a line, as a whole, they did not play well. Not even close to well. So I honestly, well, it's just coach talk. Well, yeah, that's hopefully true, but he hasn't done anything to change the situation of the offensive line now, who's played 4 straight underwhelming games, actually 5 straight underwhelming games, right? Indiana, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, now Miami.
And underwhelming is a little kind.
I simply mean overall. Some of the games were varying degrees of underwhelming, but yes, they have not played well in 5 straight games now. And last one from Corey Ruth. Thank you, Corey.
We see Love off tackle and around the edge more going forward.
Well, we better. I mean, look, they've got to be able to mix that up more. They just can't run mid-zone and downhill all the time. They need to be able to get the ball outside more and not just on stretch plays. They've got to be able to just toss it to them and let them get outside. Or let them run a jet out of 21 personnel with Jadarian in the backfield. I mean, there's things they can and should do, Corey. I just hope this coaching staff has enough creativity to coach it right. I hope the running backs coach is able to clean up some of the footwork issues that he has created. And I say he has created because they're not doing things that they were taught by Dylan McCullough, and it's creating some timing issues with the offensive line. In the run game, he's going to have to fix that a little bit, in my opinion, and readjust. I think there's a little bit of I've got to change things just to change them going on at running back that, you may want to fix and course correct. But there also needs to be some things where you're not just a, in mid-zone, inside zone team all day. Agree. Get Jeremiah Love. Just get him outside, man. Just get him in space right now. Offensive line's not playing well. Cool. Crack on the edge. Run a jet sweep. You don't even need the offensive line. Do you remember in 2019 when late in the year Chip Long started using Braden Lindsey on like reverses and jet sweeps, and he had like a 50-yard run against USC, he had a 60-something yard run against BC, and in neither situation the offensive line was asked to block a soul.
Yep.
You can't do that with Jeremiah Love out of 21 personnel? Well, they're going to overplay it. Cool. Then let them overplay it and bust it inside with a counter away with Jadarian Price, or a mid-zone away with Jadarian Price. If they're going to overplay Jeremiah going this way and come back this way with Jadarian, who's pretty freaking good too. The whole point is there's things that you can turn to if they're going to play that way, that it's about getting your best guys on the field. And the reality is, if it's not evident to everyone by now, it should be that there is no debating that Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love are two of their best players. They just happen to be in the same position. So find ways to have them both on the field and use them both in those instances. Got to happen. And part of that, I think you could, to Corey's point, is you could do some things with Jeremiah running outside in some of those situations on jets, because the only way to really get to him on the edge is to kind of overplay it or be aggressive. And then there's counters off of that. Every good coordinator puts things in like that, should be doing things with it. If they do this, these are like, this is what you do when you put a scheme in, Trevor, is this is what we want to run it against. What can they do against it? And then what are our answers to what they can do? What 100%. Can they, and you don't need to know what they do. You got to know, what are you putting in? If you don't know the weaknesses of the plays that you're installing plays you shouldn't run. You've got to know this is how they could give us problems with this look and have an answer for it. That's what good coordinators do, and I think Mike Denbrock's a good coordinator. So I'm hoping that we see more of that stuff moving forward. Like, I remember just something simple. Notre Dame went 21 personnel against Georgia Tech in 2020. And I've talked about this play before. And they lined up Chris Tyree in the slot to the right, and they ran stretch right at him. And he went on a reverse action. Georgia Tech didn't move, didn't adjust to it at all. You know what Tommy Rees did? Very next play, lined up in the exact same formation, ran the exact same stretch play, but then handed the ball off to Chris Tyree, and he ran for over 20 yards. Sometimes it's not that complicated. You gotta know what your answers are if they're taking something away. You gotta have some things. Hey, we're gonna do this and see how they react to it. But we didn't see any of those kind of motions. No jets, no orbits, none of that stuff from the wide receivers on Saturday. There's nothing to get Miami's eye discipline off of Jeremiah Love. Nothing. You got to fix that. Got to fix it. So we'll see if they do. It's a good way to end the show, Corey. Very well done.
Listen, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Be sure here in about a half an hour, hop on over to IB Nation Sports Beat. They have their midweek mailbag going on. Brian and I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. to talk about more things that Notre Dame is going to have to accomplish this bye week. So make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure that notification bell is hit. On your way out of here, make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you are also subscribed to the CFB Nation channel. Vince and I are going to be going live tomorrow night on CFB Nation for the third installment of the spread option, where we're going to be talking about different betting lines, the different spread options of what you guys have available for, the week, I guess 2 games for college football this week. So like we previewed earlier in the show, there's going to be some good games going on. Not going to want to miss that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But until then, that's Brian. I'm Trevor. Make sure you subscribe to the premium message boards at boards@irishbreakdown.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.